Order in the court. We will now proceed with the testimony of Mr. Keanu Reeves. Counselor, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Reeves, please state your full name and occupation for the record.
Keanu Charles Reeves. I'm an actor, producer, and co-founder of Arch Motorcycle Company and BRZRKR, a multimedia company focused on comics and film production.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Can you describe your relationship, if any, with the defendant, Mr. Sean Combs?
Sean and I have known each other professionally for about a decade. We've crossed paths at industry events, galas, award shows, things like that. We also explored a potential collaboration in 2021 between my production company and his Bad Boy Entertainment for a music-driven film project. It was a business relationship, nothing personal, but it gave me insight into how he operates.
And how would you characterize Mr. Combs' business practices based on your interactions?
I've always tried to approach business with integrity, transparency. I believe in treating people fairly, whether it's on a movie set or in a boardroom. But working with Sean, I saw things that didn't align with that. There were patterns, questionable financial dealings, pressure tactics, a way of doing business that felt manipulative at best.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is offering vague opinions, not facts. This is prejudicial and lacks specificity.
Sustained. Mr. Reeves, please provide specific details and stick to what you directly observed or experienced.
My apologies, Your Honor. Let me be clear. In 2021, my company, BRZRKR, was in talks with Sean's Bad Boy Entertainment for a film project, a gritty drama centered on the music industry. The idea was to co-produce, with my team handling creative development and his handling music licensing and talent. We got pretty far, signed NDAs, shared budgets, even scouted locations. But during due diligence, my team started noticing discrepancies in the financials Sean's side provided.
Can you elaborate on these discrepancies?
Sure. There were large sums listed as production expenses that didn't add up. For example, one line item was a $2 million payment to a company called Vibe Enterprises for consulting services. When my CFO tried to verify it, there was no trace of this company, no website, no public records, just a shell corporation registered in the Caymans. Another issue was a series of cash transfers to individuals who weren't listed as part of the project. My team flagged these as potential red flags for money laundering or, at the very least, sloppy accounting.
Objection, Your Honor. Mr. Reeves is not a financial expert. He's speculating based on second-hand information from his team.
Your Honor, Mr. Reeves is testifying to his direct involvement in the project and the concerns he personally reviewed as a producer and co-founder of his company.
Overruled. Mr. Reeves, focus on what you personally saw or acted upon.
Understood, Your Honor. I reviewed the financial documents myself. I'm not an accountant, but I've been in the industry long enough to know when something feels off. I asked Sean directly about these issues during a meeting in Los Angeles. He got defensive, said I was nitpicking and that I didn't understand how the music business works. I told him I needed transparency to move forward. That's when he started pushing back hard.
What do you mean by pushing back?
He started making veiled threats. Not physical but professional. He said things like, "You don't want to make an enemy out of me, Keanu, and I can make things difficult for you in this town." I've dealt with tough negotiators before, but this felt different. It was personal, like he was trying to intimidate me into signing off on the deal without asking more questions.
And how did you respond?
I walked away. I told my team to pull out of the project. I wasn't going to risk my company's reputation, or my own, on something that didn't feel right. I've built my career on trust and I wasn't about to compromise that.
Did your concerns about Mr. Combs extend beyond this specific deal?
Yeah, they did. After we backed out, I started hearing things from others in the industry. People who'd worked with Sean, artists, producers, even executives. They talked about a pattern of coercion. NDAs that went beyond protecting trade secrets, more like silencing people. Stories of young artists being pressured to sign away their rights or face career-ending consequences. One person, a former Bad Boy intern, reached out to me anonymously. They were terrified, said they'd seen Sean use his influence to bury people who crossed him.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay. The witness is relying on anonymous, uncorroborated claims.
Your Honor, this testimony establishes Mr. Reeves' reasons for taking further action, which we will corroborate with additional evidence.
I'll allow it for now, but Mr. Reeves, avoid repeating unverified claims unless they directly relate to your actions.
Yes, Your Honor. That intern's message stuck with me. I didn't want to believe it at first, but it lined up with what I'd seen. So I hired a private firm to look into Sean's businesses, not to dig up dirt, but to protect myself and my company. If my name was tied to him, I needed to know the risks. The firm's report was disturbing. They found patterns of offshore transactions, shell companies, and NDAs that seemed designed to cover up more than just business deals. They called it a potential framework for financial misconduct.
Can you be more specific about these findings?
The report highlighted a network of accounts tied to Sean's companies: Bad Boy, Revolt, even his Ciroc vodka deal. Money was moving through entities in places like the Bahamas and Panama, often with no clear business purpose. One example was a $5 million transfer to an account linked to a company called Urban Pulse LLC. No employees, no products, just a front. The firm also found over 50 NDAs signed by former employees and artists, with clauses that barred them from discussing anything they saw while working for Sean. My lawyer said it was excessive, like they were hiding something big. Fair enough, I saw the report, I read it, and I acted on it. I told my team to make sure we had no further dealings with Sean or his companies, but it wasn't just the money. There was an incident I witnessed that made me realize this wasn't just about bad business.
Please describe this incident.
It was in 2022 at a music industry fundraiser in New York. Sean and I were both there, supporting a youth arts program. I was there through my foundation, which focuses on empowering young creators. Everything was fine until I saw Sean in a heated exchange with a young musician, a kid, maybe 24, who just signed with Bad Boy. They were in a hallway away from the main event. I didn't mean to overhear, but Sean's voice carried. He was telling the kid, "You owe me, you don't get to walk away. I'll make sure you're done if you try." The kid looked scared, like he was trapped. I stepped in, told Sean to ease up. He laughed it off, called it tough love, but the kid's face told a different story.
How did this incident shape your view of Mr. Combs?
It showed me who he really is. I've worked with all kinds of people: directors, producers, CEOs. I've seen egos, I've seen power plays, but this was different. It was predatory. That kid wasn't just negotiating a deal, he was being bullied. And I started hearing more stories like that. People in the industry, artists, dancers, even managers, talking about how Sean uses his influence to control people, threatening their careers, their livelihoods. It's not just business with him, it's personal.
Did you take any further actions based on these observations?
Yeah. I made sure my company had a zero-tolerance policy for working with anyone tied to Sean's businesses. I also reached out to a few industry contacts, people I trust, to warn them about what I'd seen. When investigators contacted me last year, I told them everything I knew. I didn't want to be here testifying, but I've got a responsibility, not just to my business, but to the people who look up to me. If Sean's been breaking the law, hurting people, I can't stay quiet.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Agnifilo, your cross-examination.
Mr. Reeves, you're an actor, not a detective or a financial analyst, correct?
I'm a producer and a businessman. I've built companies from scratch. I know enough to spot when something's wrong.
But you relied on your team and this so-called private firm for your information, didn't you? You didn't personally uncover these alleged shell companies or offshore accounts.
I reviewed the documents myself. I asked the questions. I made the call to walk away. That's what I do as a leader.
And this anonymous intern who conveniently reached out to you, you can't name them, can you? Because they're a fabrication or because you're protecting a story that fits your narrative.
They're real. I'm not naming them because they're scared of what Sean might do. I've seen how he operates, how he intimidates people.
So we're just supposed to trust you. A man who's admitted to pulling out of a deal with my client. Maybe you're bitter the project didn't work out. Maybe you're trying to tarnish his reputation to boost your own.
I don't need to tarnish anyone to build myself up. I walked away because I didn't trust Sean, not because I wanted to hurt him. I'm here because I was subpoenaed, not because I have a grudge.
And this supposed incident at the fundraiser, no one else saw it, did they? Just you, overhearing a private conversation with no one to back up your story?
The kid he was threatening saw it. I'm sure he'd tell you himself if he wasn't afraid of Sean.
Your Honor, I move to strike Mr. Reeves' testimony as speculative and uncorroborated. He's spinning a tale to damage my client's reputation.
Your Honor, Mr. Reeves has provided detailed accounts based on his direct involvement and observations. The defense can challenge the weight of his testimony, but it's admissible.
The testimony will stand. The jury will determine its credibility. Mr. Agnifilo, do you have further questions?
Not at this time, Your Honor. I reserve the right to recall the witness.
Very well. Mr. Reeves, you may step down. Court is adjourned until tomorrow at 9:00 a.m. Order in the court. We will now proceed with the testimony of Mr. James Carey. Miss Wells, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carey, can you please state your full name and occupation for the record?
James Eugene Carey. I'm an actor, comedian, writer, and occasional painter of things that make people think I've lost my marbles.
Mr. Carey, please keep your responses focused and appropriate.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, Your Honor. Force of habit.
Mr. Carey, you've come forward with serious allegations against the defendant, Mr. Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy. Can you explain how you came to know Mr. Combs and the nature of your interactions with him?
Well, Karen, can I call you Karen? Okay, Miss Wells, Sean and I crossed paths back in the early 2000s. Hollywood's a small pond when you're swimming with the big fish, you know? We'd see each other at parties, premieres, those glitzy shindigs where everyone's pretending they're best friends. He was always the guy with the biggest entourage, the loudest laugh, the shiniest watch. But it wasn't until 2008 that things got personal.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by
I
personal?
was invited to one of his infamous freak-off parties. Look, I'm no prude, I've been to some wild Hollywood bashes, but this was different. It was at his mansion in Miami. The vibe was off. Like you walk in and it's all champagne and caviar, but there's this undercurrent, you know. Like something's not right, people were acting strange, like they were scared to say no to him. I saw things that night, things I can't unsee.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is being vague and speculative. We need specifics, not theatrics.
Sustained. Mr. Carey, please stick to the facts. What exactly did you observe?
Right, facts. Okay, there were rooms, locked rooms where people were taken. I didn't go in, but I heard things. Screams, not the fun kind. And there were these guys, his security, I guess, making sure nobody got too curious. I saw a young woman, she couldn't have been more than 19, being led into one of those rooms by one of Sean's guys. She looked terrified. I asked her if she was okay and she just shook her head like she couldn't talk. Then one of his goons told me to mind my own business. I left that night, but it stuck with me.
And did you have any further interactions with Mr. Combs after that event?
Yeah, a few. He'd call me up, invite me to more parties, always with this insistence. Like he was testing me. In 2010, he asked me to come to a private meeting at his studio in LA, said it was about a film project. I show up and it's not about any movie. It's him, a couple of his buddies, and a table full of, let's just say, substances that weren't exactly legal. He offered me some, said it'd loosen me up. I said no, he didn't like that. Got real cold real fast, told me I was missing out on the real Hollywood.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay and irrelevant. This testimony is about alleged criminal activity, not Mr. Combs' personality or social invitations.
Your Honor, this testimony establishes a pattern of coercive behavior by the defendant, which is central to the charges of racketeering and coercion.
Overruled. Continue, Miss Wells, but keep it relevant.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carey, you've mentioned a pattern of behavior. Can you describe the most serious incident that led you to come forward today?
Yeah, it was 2012. Another one of his parties, this time in New York. I didn't want to go, but a friend of mine, a young actress she was desperate to network, begged me to come with her. Said she felt safer with me there. I should have said no, but I went. Biggest mistake of my life. We get there and it's the same deal, music blasting, people everywhere, but there's this darkness. My friend, she gets pulled into a conversation with Sean. He's all charm at first, offering her a drink, talking about her career. I'm watching from across the room, trying to keep an eye on her. Then I lose sight of her. Just gone. I start looking, asking around. Nobody knows anything or they're pretending not to. I find one of his guys and he tells me she's fine, but his eyes are saying something else. I push past him, start checking rooms. I find her in one of those locked rooms, unconscious. She'd been drugged, there were marks on her. I got her out, took her to a hospital. She wouldn't talk about it after, but she quit acting, moved back to her hometown. She's still not the same.
Mr. Carey, that must have been incredibly difficult. Can you confirm for the record that the individual you're referring to is not present in this courtroom, and that you've been granted permission to discuss this incident on her behalf?
Yes, she gave me permission. She's too scared to come forward herself. Said she doesn't want her name dragged through the mud. I don't blame her.
Your Honor, this is an outrageous story with no corroboration. Mr. Carey is an actor known for his flair for drama. He's painting a picture here, but where's the evidence? No police report, no medical records, just his word.
You want evidence? I was there. I saw her eyes mark. I carried her out of that hellhole. You think I'd make this up? For what? A laugh. This isn't a comedy sketch. This is someone's life.
Mr. Carey, control yourself. Mr. Agnifilo, you'll have your chance to cross-examine. Miss Wells, continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carey, did you ever confront Mr. Combs about what happened to your friend?
Yeah, a few weeks later I saw him at an industry event. I pulled him aside, told him what I saw, what happened to her. I said, "You can't keep doing this, Sean. People are getting hurt." He just laughed, said I was too sensitive and that I didn't understand how things worked. Then he leaned in real close and said, "You talk and you're done in this town. Nobody'll believe you over me." I didn't say anything after that. I was scared. I'm not proud of it, but I was.
And what prompted you to come forward now, after all these years?
I've spent years trying to forget, trying to move on. But every time I see his face on a magazine or hear his music, it's like a punch in the gut. I heard about this case, about other people coming forward. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I owe it to her, to all of them.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Agnifilo, your cross-examination.
Mr. Carey, you're quite the performer, aren't you? I mean, you've built a career on making people laugh, cry, believe in your stories. Isn't that right?
I'm an actor, not a liar, if that's what you're getting at.
Oh, I'm just establishing your flair for the dramatic. You've told a very compelling story here today, but let's talk facts. You claim my client drugged and assaulted someone in 2012, yet there's no police report, no medical records, no other witnesses. Just your word. Convenient, isn't it?
Convenient? You think it's convenient for me to be here dragging up the worst night of my life? I don't need to make this up. I was there. I saw what I saw.
And yet you waited over a decade to say anything. Why is that, Mr. Carey? Were you waiting for the right moment to get some attention, maybe revive a fading career?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative and irrelevant.
Sustained. Mr. Agnifilo, stick to the facts.
Very well. Mr. Carey, you mentioned locked rooms and screams at this 2008 party. Did you report these observations to anyone at the time?
No, I didn't. I was freaked out, okay? I didn't know what to do. I wasn't exactly on speed dial with the FBI.
So no reports, no evidence, just your vivid imagination. And this alleged 2012 incident, you say you found your friend unconscious with marks on her. Did you call the police?
I took her to a hospital. I didn't know what else to do. She begged me not to call the cops. She was scared out of her mind. You ever think about what it's like for someone to go through that, to feel like they've got no one to turn to?
I'm not here to speculate about feelings, Mr. Carey. I'm here for facts. And the fact is, your story lacks any corroboration. You're asking this jury to believe a man who makes a living pretending to be someone else.
I'm not pretending. You think I want to be here, reliving this? I'm doing this because it's right. Because people like your client think they can get away with anything, and I'm sick of it.
Mr. Carey, that's enough. One more outburst and you'll be held in contempt. Mr. Agnifilo, do you have any further questions?
Just one, Your Honor. Mr. Carey, isn't it true that you've struggled with mental health issues in the past? Could these memories be influenced by your, let's say, fragile state of mind?
Objection. This is an attack on the witness's character and entirely irrelevant.
Sustained. Mr. Agnifilo, you're treading on thin ice. The witness's mental health is not on trial here. Do you have any relevant questions?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, Miss Wells. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Carey, why do you believe Mr. Combs threatened you when you confronted him?
Because I was a threat. I saw what he did. I wasn't one of his yes men. He knew I could talk and he wanted to shut me up. That's how he operates: fear, control, power, but I'm not scared anymore. Not today.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. No further questions.
The witness is excused. You may step down, Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Eilish, can you state your full name and occupation for the record?
Yeah, I do. Billie Eilish, Pirate Baird O'Connell. I'm a singer and songwriter.
And how long have you been in the music industry?
Since I was like 13, so about 9 years.
In that time, have you come into contact with the defendant, Mr. Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy?
Yeah, a few times.
Can you describe the nature of those interactions?
It started in 2019, right after my first album dropped. I was 17 and everyone was like freaking out about me. I got invited to this industry party in LA. Diddy was there. He came up to me all charming, saying he loved my music, that I was the future, blah, blah, blah. I was a kid, so I was flattered, you know?
What happened at that party?
He pulled me aside, said he wanted to talk business, took me to this private room upstairs. It was just us, and I felt weird, like, why's this big shot producer isolating me? He started talking about my career, saying he could make me a global icon, bigger than I could imagine. But it wasn't just advice. He was like dangling these offers, collaborations, record deals, movie roles. Said he had connections with people like Tom Cruise, that he could get me in rooms others couldn't.
Did these offers come with conditions?
Yeah, he didn't say it outright at first, but it was clear. He kept talking about loyalty, about how the industry works, how you have to play the game. Then he got specific. Said if I wanted his help, I'd need to. Pauses, voice cracking, attend certain parties, private ones. He called them creative sessions.
Can you clarify what he meant by creative sessions?
They weren't about music. He said these were exclusive events where everyone who's anyone goes to network. But the way he described it, it was creepy. He mentioned entertaining his friends, being open-minded. I wasn't stupid. I knew what he was implying.
Objection, Your Honor, this is speculative. The witness is assuming intent without evidence.
Fine, he said verbatim. You want to be a legend, you gotta show you're down for the team. Come to my next party and we'll see how serious you are. That's not speculation, that's what he said.
Did you attend any of these parties?
No, I bilayed. I told my team I wasn't comfortable and they got me out of there, but Diddy didn't stop. He kept texting me, calling me, said I was making a mistake, that I'd regret turning him down. He even sent me a contract once, some shady deal with his label. My lawyer shut it down.
Miss Eilish, you mentioned Tom Cruise. Did Mr. Combs reference him again in relation to these offers?
Yeah. In 2020, I ran into Diddy at a Grammy after party. He was more aggressive this time. Said he'd been talking to Tom about me, that Tom thought I had star power for movies. Diddy claimed he could set up a meeting, but only if I proved myself first. He said Tom was part of his inner circle, that they had special arrangements with new talent.
And how did you interpret that?
I interpreted it as a lie. Tom Cruise doesn't need Diddy to scout talent. It was a name drop to pressure me, but even if it was true, it felt gross, like I was being sold to some elite club.
Objection, again, speculation. The witness is imputing motives without proof.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Eilish, did Mr. Combs ever mention another artist in relation to these events?
Yeah, Justin Bieber.
Can you elaborate?
At that same Grammy party, Diddy brought up Justin, said he'd mentored him when he was young, that Justin had been to his parties and knew how to play ball. He implied Justin's success came from doing what Diddy asked. Then he got this look like he was testing me and said, Justin had some rough nights, but he came out on top, you could too.
Did he specify what he meant by rough nights?
Not exactly, but it wasn't hard to figure out. He said Justin had to earn his stripes at private events, that he'd been tested by Diddy's crew. It sounded like pauses, swallowing, like Justin had been through some messed up stuff. Diddy made it seem like that was the price of fame.
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor. The witness is relaying second-hand information about Mr. Bieber, who isn't here to corroborate.
Your Honor, this testimony is relevant to the defendant's pattern of behavior and the coercive tactics alleged in the indictment.
He said Justin was 15 when he started hanging with me. He learned quick. You're smarter than he was, Billy. You'll figure it out. That's what he said.
How did these comments about Justin Bieber affect you?
It freaked me out. I knew Justin's story, everyone does. He was a kid when he got famous, and he's been through hell. Hearing Diddy talk about him like that, like he'd orchestrated it, it made me sick. I didn't want to be another one of his success stories.
Did you ever witness any interactions between Mr. Combs and Mr. Bieber?
Once at a studio in New York in 2021. I was recording nearby and Justin was there. Diddy showed up unannounced. Justin got quiet like he was bracing himself. Diddy was acting all big, talking about old times, but Justin barely responded. He looked haunted. I overheard Diddy say something like, "You know I got you, kid, we keep it locked." Justin just nodded and left.
Miss Eilish, let's shift focus. You've described yourself as someone who's navigated the industry successfully. Have you ever used your influence to pressure others?
What's that supposed to mean?
There have been allegations that you've been dismissive or harsh toward younger artists, particularly those seeking your mentorship. Can you address that?
Look, I'm not a saint. I've been in this game since I was a teenager and it's brutal. Yeah, I've snapped at people before, interns, new artists, whoever. I've got a short temper and I don't always have time to play nice. But I've never preyed on anyone, never dangled opportunities to manipulate them. That's not me.
So you deny exploiting your position?
Exploit? I've turned down deals that would have screwed over my fans or my team. I've fought for control of my music, my image. But sure, I've been a jerk sometimes. I'm human. That doesn't make me like him.
Objection, the witness is making prejudicial statements.
Miss Eilish, did you ever confront Mr. Combs about his offers or his comments about Mr. Bieber?
Points at Diddy. Yeah, once. In 2022, I saw him at a festival. I was pissed, maybe a little reckless. I told him to stop name-dropping me, to leave me out of his games. I brought up Justin, said I wasn't going to be another one of his victims. He laughed, said I was too smart to get played but too dumb to win big. Then he walked off.
How has this experience affected your view of the music industry?
It's a machine. Talent gets you in, but power games keep you there. Diddy's not the only one pulling this crap, but he's one of the worst. He uses his clout to control people, especially kids who don't know better. I've seen it. Justin's proof. I'm proof he tried.
Thank you, Miss Eilish. No further questions at this time.
Miss Eilish, you've told quite a story today. Let's unpack it. You claim my client made inappropriate offers in 2017, yet you continued attending events where he was present.
It's the industry. You can't just avoid someone like Diddy. He's at every major event, award shows, festivals, parties. I wasn't chasing him, I was doing my job.
Why? But you admit to engaging with him even after these alleged creepy encounters.
Engaging? I tolerated him, I didn't have a choice. He's got power, connections. You don't just tell Sean Combs to screw off when you're 17 and new to the game.
So you're saying you felt coerced, yet you never filed a police report or a complaint with your management?
I told my team, they handled it. And a police report against P. Diddy, you think that's easy? He's got lawyers like you, people who'd bury me in court. I was a kid trying to protect my career.
Let's talk about Mr. Bieber. You claim my client made serious allegations about him. But you have no first-hand knowledge of these events, correct? Just what you think my client implied.
I know what he said. He bragged about mentoring Justin, about putting him through tests. He used it to scare me. And I saw Justin's face that day in the studio. That wasn't nothing. Are you serious? I've owned my mistakes. I'm not perfect, but I've never hurt anyone. Diddy's out here dangling fame like a carrot, preying on kids. Don't twist this on me.
And these offers you mentioned, collaborations, movie roles, isn't that just standard industry networking? You're a star, Miss Eilish. People pitch you deals all the time. Why single out my client?
Because his pitches came with strings. He wasn't offering me a collab, he was offering me a leash. He wanted control, loyalty, whatever you want to call it, and he used Justin's name to make it sound normal.
One last question. You claim my client referenced Tom Cruise. Have you ever met Mr. Cruise or confirmed these alleged discussions?
No, like I said, it felt like a lie to pressure me. Diddy's good at that, dropping big names to make you feel small.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Briefly, Your Honor. Miss Eilish, why are you testifying today?
Because I'm not a kid anymore, I've seen what Diddy does, how he operates. I got out, but others didn't. Justin didn't. If I can help stop him, I will.
Thank you. No further questions. Mr. DiCaprio, thank you for being here today. Can you state your full name for the record?
Leonardo Wilhelm DiCaprio.
Mr. DiCaprio, you've known the defendant, Sean Combs, for several years, correct? Can you describe the nature of your relationship?
Yeah, Sean and I met back in the early 2000s. It was at one of his parties in LA. You know, I was young, coming off Titanic, and his events were the place to be. We'd cross paths at clubs, award shows, charity galas. He was magnetic, you know, always the center of the room. Over time, we became friendly, not best buddies, but we'd hang out, talk about the industry, art, life. He had this way of making you feel like you were in on something exclusive.
Let's focus on those events. Can you describe the atmosphere at Mr. Combs' parties, particularly any incidents that raised concerns for you?
Look, I've been to a lot of parties in my life. Hollywood's wild, right? But Sean's parties, they were on another level. Opulent, excessive. Champagne fountains, private rooms, A-listers everywhere. But there was always this undercurrent. Like you'd see things that made you pause, but you'd brush it off because, well, it's a party, everyone's having fun, or so you thought.
Can you be more specific, Mr. DiCaprio? What kinds of things made you pause?
Okay. There was this one night, I think it was 2010, at his Miami estate. I saw Sean handing out drinks, special drinks, he called them. Not just champagne or vodka, but these little vials. People took them, and within minutes they were different. Slurring, stumbling, way beyond drunk. I remember this one girl, she couldn't have been more than 22, her eyes were glassy, and she was clinging to Sean like she didn't know where she was. I asked her friend if she was okay, and the friend just shrugged, said, "That's just how it goes here."
Are you suggesting Mr. Combs was administering substances to impair people?
Objection, Your Honor, leading the witness. Mr. DiCaprio is not a toxicologist. He's speculating.
Sustained. Miss Martinez, rephrase your question.
Fair enough. Mr. DiCaprio, did you ever witness Mr. Combs giving substances to individuals that appeared to affect their behavior?
Yeah, I did. I'm not saying I know what was in those vials, could have been anything, but I saw it happen more than once. People would take them and they'd lose themselves. And Sean, he'd just smile like it was all part of the game.
Did you ever confront Mr. Combs about this?
I didn't. I should have maybe, but I didn't. You have to understand, in that world you don't ask too many questions. You're there to have a good time, not to play cop. I figured people knew what they were getting into, but looking back, I don't know, it didn't sit right.
Let's move to another incident. Can you tell us about any behavior from Mr. Combs that suggested harassment or intimidation?
Yeah, there was this one time in New York, 2014 maybe. Sean was hosting this after party at a penthouse. There was this young actress, nobody huge, just starting out. She was talented, had this raw energy. Sean was all over her, not just flirting but aggressive, telling her he could make her career if she played along. She looked uncomfortable, tried to laugh it off, but he kept pushing, cornering her by the bar. I stepped in, made some dumb joke to break the tension, and she practically ran to me like I was a lifeline.
Did Mr. Combs stop after you intervened?
Not really. He laughed, called me Captain Save-A-Dame, but later that night I saw him whispering to her again, his hand on her arm. She left the party early and I never saw her at one of his events again. I heard she quit acting a year later.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. Mr. DiCaprio has no first-hand knowledge of why this individual left the industry.
Sustained. The jury will disregard the witness's last statement about the actress quitting acting.
Mr. DiCaprio, did you observe any other instances of Mr. Combs using his influence in a way that seemed coercive?
Yeah, plenty. Sean had this way of dangling opportunities. He'd tell people, models, musicians, actors, that he could get them deals, connect them with the right people. But there was always a catch. He'd ask for favors, not always explicit, but you knew what he meant. If you said no, he'd get cold, make you feel like you were nothing. I saw him do it to guys too, not just women. It was like power was his currency.
Let's talk about something more specific. Did you ever witness or hear about Mr. Combs engaging in illegal surveillance or recording of individuals?
Yeah, this is the one that really messed me up. It was at a party in LA 2016. I was in one of the private rooms, VIP area, just a few of us. Sean was bragging about his setup. He showed me this tablet, and it had live feeds from cameras all over the house. Not just the main areas, but bedrooms, bathrooms, places people thought were private. He laughed, said it was for security, but the way he said it, it felt wrong, like he was collecting dirt on people.
Did Mr. Combs indicate what he did with those recordings?
Not directly, but he implied it. He said something like, "You'd be surprised what people do when they think no one's watching." I didn't push him on it, but I got this sick feeling. I started wondering if he had stuff on me too. I stopped going to his parties as much after that.
Objection, Your Honor, this is pure speculation. Mr. DiCaprio has no evidence of any recordings being used improperly.
Overruled. The witness is testifying to what he observed and heard. The jury can assess its weight.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. DiCaprio, let's address a more serious allegation. Did you ever witness or suspect Mr. Combs engaging in behavior that could be considered sexual misconduct or assault?
This is hard to talk about. There was one night, I don't know the exact year, maybe 2012 in the Hamptons. I saw something that's haunted me. There was this girl, young, maybe early 20s. She was drunk or worse, maybe from those vials. Sean was with her in a back room, door half open. I didn't see everything, but I heard her say no a few times softly like she was scared. I froze. I didn't know what to do. I told myself maybe I misheard, maybe it was consensual. But the way she looked when she came out, pale, shaking, I've never been sure what happened, but I've carried that doubt ever since.
Why didn't you report this incident at the time?
I was a coward. I didn't want to get involved, didn't want to ruin the vibe, didn't want to be the guy who caused trouble. I kept telling myself it wasn't my place. But I regret it. I should have done something.
One final area, Mr. DiCaprio. Did you ever witness Mr. Combs interacting with individuals who appeared to be underage in an inappropriate manner?
Yeah, this was the last straw for me. It was 2018 at one of his yacht parties. There was this kid, couldn't have been more than 16, maybe 17. I don't know how they got there. Someone said they were a friend's cousin. Sean was too friendly, kept putting his arm around them, giving them drinks, laughing too loud. I pulled the kid aside, asked if they were okay. They said they were fine, but they looked scared. I told one of Sean's security guys to get the kid off the yacht. I don't know what happened after that, but I never went back to one of his events.
Thank you, Mr. DiCaprio. No further questions at this time.
Mr. Agnifilo, your cross-examination.
Mr. DiCaprio, you're a well-known actor, correct? Known for your charm, your charisma, your ability to tell a story.
I'd say I'm decent at my job, yeah.
Decent enough to spin a narrative, perhaps. Let's start with these vials you mentioned. You admit you don't know what was in them, correct?
Correct. But I saw how people acted after taking them. It wasn't just alcohol.
So you're speculating. You also said you never confronted my client about these alleged substances. Why not?
Like I said, I didn't want to rock the boat. It's not like I was his priest or his lawyer.
Convenient. Let's move to this alleged surveillance. You claim Mr. Combs showed you a tablet with camera feeds. Did you see any actual recordings being saved or used?
No, but he implied.
Implied. Another assumption. And this incident with the young woman in 2012, you admit you didn't see anything definitive, correct? You heard a word's no, but you didn't intervene or report it. Why should we trust your memory now, over a decade later?
Because I'm not here to lie. I'm here because I can't keep pretending I didn't see what I saw. I've got no reason to make this up. Sean was a friend, or at least I thought he was. This isn't easy for me.
Yet you continued attending his parties for years, didn't you? If these events were so troubling, why keep going?
It's complicated. You get caught up in the lifestyle, the glamour, the connections. You tell yourself it's not your problem. But eventually it catches up to you. That's why I'm here.
Let's talk about this underage individual. You say they were 16 or 17, but you didn't verify their age, did you? Could they have been 18, 19?
They looked young, too young. I didn't check their ID, but I know what I saw.
So, more speculation. Mr. DiCaprio, isn't it true that you're testifying today to boost your public image, to appear as some kind of moral crusader after years of enjoying my client's hospitality?
No. I'm here because I've spent too long staying silent. I've got enough fame, enough money. I don't need to make up stories to feel good about myself. What I saw, what I think I saw, it's been eating at me. I'm not proud of standing by back then, but I'm trying to do right now.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. DiCaprio. You're excused. Order, we will now proceed with the testimony of Mr. Justin Bieber. Counsel, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Bieber, can you please state your full name and occupation for the record?
My name is Justin Drew Bieber. I'm a singer, songwriter, and performer.
Thank you, Mr. Bieber. You're here today to provide testimony regarding your interactions with the defendant, Mr. Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy. Can you confirm that you've had a professional and personal relationship with him?
Yeah, that's right. I've known him since I was a kid, like 15 or so. We worked together, hung out. He was a big name in the industry, someone I looked up to back then.
Can you describe the nature of your relationship with Mr. Combs when you were younger?
It started out professional. I was this young kid from Canada just breaking into the music scene. Diddy he was like a legend. He had this aura, power, success. He reached out through my team, said he wanted to mentor me, help me navigate the industry. I was excited. Who wouldn't be?
And how did that mentorship begin?
It was 2009, I think. I was working on my first album. He invited me to his studio in LA, said he wanted to collab, give me advice. We recorded some stuff, nothing major, just vibes. But he was always around after that, parties, events, his mansion. He'd call me little bro, make me feel like I was part of his world.
Can you describe what you mean by his world? What was the environment like when you spent time with Mr. Combs?
It was intense. His world was big, private jets, huge houses, entourages, but it wasn't just music and business. There were parties, late nights, people coming and going, a lot of stuff I didn't understand at 15. I mean, I was a kid, I didn't know what was normal in that scene.
Let's focus on those parties. Can you share specific experiences that stand out to you?
Yeah. One night, I think it was 2010, I was at his house in Miami. Big party, tons of people, celebs, models, industry folks. I was one of the youngest there. Diddy pulled me aside, said he wanted to show me something special. Took me to this private room upstairs. There were things happening there, people doing drugs, not just weed, hard stuff. Cocaine, pills, there were women too, way older than me, and they were—
Objection, Your Honor. This is speculative and lacks foundation. Mr. Bieber is making assumptions about the intentions of individuals he doesn't know.
Your Honor, Mr. Bieber is recounting his first-hand observations as a minor in the defendant's environment. This is relevant to establishing the nature of Mr. Combs' influence over him.
Overruled. Mr. Bieber, please continue, but stick to what you saw and experienced directly.
Okay, I saw what I saw. It wasn't just that night, it happened a lot. Diddy would push me to stay longer, drink, smoke. He'd say, "This is how we do it in the industry, JB. You gotta grow up." I was 15, man. I didn't know how to say no to someone like him.
Did Mr. Combs ever encourage you to engage in specific activities that made you uncomfortable?
Yeah, there was this one time, 2011, at his place in New York. He threw this after party for some award show. I was 16. He kept handing me drinks, saying it was just juice or whatever. But I got dizzy out of it. He took me to a room, said I could crash there. Next thing I know, there's this woman there, older, maybe in her 20s. She started trying to get close to me, touching me. I was out of it, didn't know what was happening. Diddy was standing there laughing like it was a game. He said, "Relax, JB. This is what the big legs are like."
Mr. Bieber, are you alleging that Mr. Combs facilitated an inappropriate encounter with this woman?
I'm saying he set it up. He knew I was a kid, knew I was messed up from whatever was in that drink. He didn't stop it. He encouraged it. I got out of there, but it messed me up for a long time. I felt dirty, like I wasn't in control.
Objection, Your Honor. This is a serious accusation with no corroborating evidence. Mr. Bieber's memory of events from over a decade ago is unreliable, and he's admitted to being under the influence.
Your Honor, Mr. Bieber is providing his account of a traumatic experience as a minor under the defendant's influence. His testimony is critical to understanding the pattern of behavior.
But Mr. Agnifilo, you'll have your chance to cross-examine. Mr. Bieber, please continue.
It wasn't just that night. There were other times. He'd push me to do things, party harder, stay out later, be around people I shouldn't have been around. He'd say it was to toughen me up for the industry, but it wasn't mentoring, it was control. He'd make comments about my career, how he could make or break me. I was scared to push back.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by control? Did Mr. Combs ever make explicit threats?
Not like "I'm gonna hurt you" threats, but it was clear he had power. He'd say things like, "You don't want to mess this up, JB. I know everybody in this game." He'd remind me how young I was, how I needed him to keep my name hot. One time he got mad when I turned down a party invite, said I was being ungrateful. After that, he froze me out for weeks, no calls, no studio time. I felt like I had to play along to stay in his good graces.
Let's talk about another incident. Are you aware of any illegal activities Mr. Combs was involved in during the time you knew him?
Yeah. I saw things. At his parties, there was always drugs, cocaine, ecstasy, stuff I didn't even know the names of back then. I saw him hand out pills to people like it was candy. And there were always these deals happening. People coming in with briefcases, leaving quick. I didn't know what was in them, but it didn't feel right. One time, I overheard him talking about moving product with some guys in his office. I was too young to get it, but looking back, it wasn't just music he was moving.
Mr. Bieber, these are serious allegations. Can you provide more detail about this moving product conversation?
It was at his LA house 2012 maybe. I was in the studio waiting for him. He didn't know I was there yet. I heard him on the phone talking about product coming in from Miami, how it needed to be clean before it hit the streets. He was talking numbers, big numbers. I didn't stick around to hear more. I got out of there fast.
Objection, Your Honor, this is hearsay and speculation. Mr. Bieber is not qualified to testify about the nature of any alleged business dealings.
Your Honor, Mr. Bieber is testifying to what he personally overheard, which is admissible as it pertains to the defendant's conduct in his presence.
Sustained in part. Mr. Bieber, you may testify to what you heard, but refrain from speculating about the nature of the conversation. Stick to the facts.
All I know is what I heard. He was talking about product and money. It didn't sound like music business to me.
Thank you, Mr. Bieber. One final question for now. How did your experiences with Mr. Combs impact you, both personally and professionally?
It messed me up. I was a kid trying to figure out who I was, and he pulled me into this world I wasn't ready for. The parties, the drugs, the women, it made me feel like I had to be someone I wasn't to survive in the industry. I struggled with anxiety, depression, even addiction for years after. I'm still dealing with it. I trusted him and he used that. He wasn't a mentor, he was a predator.
Thank you, Mr. Bieber. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Agnifilo, your cross-examination.
Mr. Bieber, you've painted a very dramatic picture here. Let's clarify some things. You were 15 when you met Mr. Combs, correct?
Yeah.
And at that age, you were already a global superstar, weren't you? Touring the world, selling out arenas, making millions.
I was doing well, yeah, but I was still a kid.
A kid who chose to attend these parties, correct? No one forced you to go to Mr. Combs' homes or events.
I didn't choose like you're making it sound. He invited me. He was my mentor. I thought I had to be there to keep my career going.
So you're saying you felt pressured, but you never said no? Never told your team or your parents you were uncomfortable?
I was 15. I didn't know how to say no to someone like Diddy. My mom wasn't there at 3 a.m. at his mansion. My team, they trusted him too. Everyone did.
Let's talk about this alleged incident in 2011. You claim you were given a drink that made you dizzy. Do you have any proof, medical records, toxicology reports that you were drugged?
No. It was 14 years ago. I didn't go to a hospital. I was scared, embarrassed. I just wanted to forget it.
So we're relying solely on your memory, which you admit was impaired by alcohol or whatever else you consumed voluntarily.
I didn't voluntarily take anything that messed me up. I trusted him. He gave me the drink. I was a kid.
And the woman you mentioned, do you have a name, a description, any way to corroborate this story?
No. I didn't ask for her ID. I was 16, freaked out and trying to get away. But I know what happened. I know what I saw.
Mr. Bieber, you've admitted to struggling with addiction and mental health issues. Isn't it possible your memory of these events is clouded by your own challenges at the time?
My memory's clear enough. I know what he did. I know how it made me feel. I've spent years trying to undo the damage from those nights.
One last point, Mr. Bieber. You continued to work with Mr. Combs after these alleged incidents, didn't you? You attended his events, collaborated on music. Why would you do that if he was, as you say, a predator?
Because I didn't know how to get out. He was everywhere in the industry. My team, my label, they all said he was the key to staying relevant. I was young, scared of losing everything. I thought I had to play along. It's not like I had a manual for how to handle someone like him.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Bieber, you're excused for now, but you may be recalled. The court will take a 15-minute recess.
Mr. Bieber,
No,
Mr.
Your Honor.
Agnifilo
The defense
suggested your
reserves the right
continued
to recall the
association
witness.
with Mr. Combs undermines your claims. Can you clarify why you maintained contact despite your discomfort?
Like I said, I was young. Diddy had connections everywhere, labels, producers, radio. He made it clear he could open doors or close them. I felt trapped. I didn't want to lose my career before it really started. And honestly, I didn't fully understand how wrong it was until I got older, got some distance.
Thank you. Can you describe one more specific incident that illustrates the dynamic you've described?
Yeah. In 2013, I was 19, trying to distance myself a bit. But Diddy invited me to this yacht party in Miami. I went because my team thought it'd be good for networking. It was wild, drugs everywhere, people passed out, fights breaking out. Diddy pulled me aside, said he had a business proposition. He wanted me to promote some new venture, but it sounded shady, something about offshore accounts moving money. I said I wasn't interested. He got real cold, said, "You'll regret this, JB, you don't say no to me." I left the next day and didn't talk to him for years after that.
And how did that experience affect your view of Mr. Combs?
It showed me who he really was. It wasn't about music or mentorship. It was about power. He used people, me, others, to get what he wanted. I've spent years trying to rebuild myself after that. I'm here because I don't want anyone else to go through what I did.
Order in the court. We will now proceed with the testimony of Miss Amber Heard. Mr. Rivera, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Heard, please state your full name for the record.
Amber Laura Heard.
Miss Heard, you've been called as a witness in the case against Mr. Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy, regarding allegations of racketeering, sex trafficking, and coercion. Can you confirm your relationship with Mr. Combs?
I knew Sean socially. We met at a few events in Los Angeles and New York around 2018, maybe 2019. It was through mutual connections in the entertainment industry. I wouldn't say we were close, but we crossed paths enough to have interactions.
Can you describe the nature of those interactions?
They were intense. Sean had this way of drawing people in. He was charismatic, larger than life, like he owned every room he walked into. But there was another side to him, something darker. I saw things, heard things that made me uneasy.
Objection, Your Honor. Vague and speculative. The witness is making broad statements without providing specific details.
Sustained. Miss Heard, please provide specific examples to support your claims.
Right, okay. There was this one night in the summer of 2019 at a private party in the Hollywood Hills. Sean was hosting and it was extravagant. A-list celebrities, music moguls, models, everyone was there. I was invited by a friend and I went because I was curious. Sean had this reputation, you know. Like he was untouchable, a kingpin of sorts.
What happened at this party that made you uneasy?
There was a moment when I saw Sean with a young man, Justin, his son. They were in a heated argument in a secluded part of the mansion near the pool house. I couldn't hear everything, but Justin was upset. He was saying something about how Sean had forced him into situations he didn't want to be in. I heard Justin say, "You made me do it, Dad. You made me cover for you."
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay. The witness is recounting an alleged conversation she was not a part of. Your Honor, this testimony is relevant to establish Mr. Combs' pattern of coercive behavior, including within his own family, which is central to the racketeering charges.
Overruled. The testimony is admissible to establish context, but Miss Heard, you must clarify what you personally observed and avoid repeating unverified statements unless they are directly relevant.
I saw Justin's face. He looked scared, angry. Sean grabbed him by the arm, not violently but firmly, and pulled him inside. I didn't follow, but later that night I saw Justin again. He was different, quiet, almost defeated. I asked him if he was okay, and he just brushed it off, said, "You don't know my dad."
Miss Heard, you mentioned situations Justin was forced into. Did you ever learn more about what he meant?
Not directly from Justin, but there were rumors. People in the industry talked about Sean's parties, his freak-offs, they called them. I heard from a stylist friend that Sean used his influence to manipulate people, including Justin, into participating in things they didn't want to do. Things like sexual performances for his guests. I didn't see it myself, but the rumors were persistent.
Objection, Your Honor. This is hearsay and irrelevant gossip. The witness is relying on second-hand rumors, not personal knowledge.
Sustained. Miss Heard, stick to what you personally witnessed or experienced. Rumors are not admissible.
Fine, I saw things at other events too. There was a night in New York at a club Sean owned. I was there with a group, including some people from the film industry. Sean pulled me aside, said he wanted to talk business. He was all charm at first, offering to connect me with producers, saying he could open doors for me. But then he got intense. He said I owed him for being there, that I should show gratitude in ways that made my skin crawl.
Can you clarify what he meant by show gratitude?
He implied physical favors. He didn't say it outright, but the way he looked at me, the way he touched my arm, it was clear what he wanted. I told him I wasn't interested, and he laughed it off like it was a game. But later that night, I saw him with another woman, younger, maybe early 20s. She looked uncomfortable, like she was being pressured. I left after that.
Miss Heard, let's clarify. You're claiming Mr. Combs made an inappropriate advance, yet you admit he didn't explicitly state anything. Isn't it possible you misinterpreted his intentions? You said yourself it was a crowded club, with music, alcohol. Maybe you misread the situation.
I know what I felt. His tone, his body language, it wasn't a misunderstanding. I've been around enough men like him to know the difference.
Men like him. So you're making assumptions based on your own biases, not facts. Let's move to this alleged argument with Justin Combs. You said it was in 2019, correct?
Yes, summer of 2019.
Interesting. Because in your deposition, you stated this incident occurred in 2018 at a different event in Malibu. Can you explain the discrepancy?
I might have mixed up the dates. It was a chaotic time in my life. I was dealing with my own personal issues, my divorce, but I'm certain it was Justin and Sean, and it was at a mansion party.
So your memory isn't reliable, is it? You can't confirm the year, the location, or even the exact words spoken. Yet you're asking this court to believe your account of a vague conversation you overheard.
I know what I saw. Justin was scared and Sean was controlling him. I'm not making this up.
Ms. Heard, control your tone. Answer the questions directly.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm trying to be clear. It's hard to relive these moments.
Miss Heard, let's focus on another incident. You mentioned in your statement to investigators that you witnessed an altercation involving Mr. Combs and a well-known actor at a charity gala in 2020. Can you describe that event?
Yes, it was a gala for a children's charity in Los Angeles. Tom Cruise was there. He was one of the hosts. I was at a table nearby and I saw Sean and Tom talking privately. It got heated. Tom was intense like he always is, very focused, almost missionary-like in his demeanor. He was accusing Sean of using the charity as a front for something else, something illegal.
Can you elaborate on what Mr. Cruise said?
Tom said something like, "You're tainting this cause, Sean. You're using these kids as a shield for your dirty deals." I didn't hear everything, but it was clear Tom was furious. Sean just smirked like he wasn't fazed and said, "You don't know the game, Tom. Stay in your lane."
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay again. And this is irrelevant to the charges against my client. Your Honor, this testimony establishes Mr. Combs' pattern of using his influence to manipulate high-profile events and individuals, which is directly relevant to the racketeering charges.
Overruled, but Ms. Heard, focus on what you directly observed. Avoid repeating conversations unless you were a direct participant.
I saw Tom walk away, red-faced, like he was ready to explode. Later, I overheard Sean talking to one of his associates, laughing about how Tom was too righteous for his own good. It made me think Sean was hiding something big, something even someone like Tom Cruise couldn't ignore.
Miss Heard, you seem to have a knack for overhearing private conversations. Let's talk about this gala. You said it was in 2020, correct?
Yes.
According to the event records, Mr. Cruise was not in Los Angeles in 2020 for any charity gala. He was filming overseas. Can you explain this inconsistency?
Maybe it was 2019. I'm not sure. I know I saw them together. It was a big event, lots of people.
So, once again, your memory is unclear. You're asking this court to believe a story about a confrontation that may not have even happened. And let's address your motives, Miss Heard. Isn't it true you've had your own legal troubles, including a highly publicized defamation case? Could this testimony be an attempt to deflect attention from your own controversies?
That's not true. I'm here because I saw things that weren't right. I'm not perfect, but I'm telling the truth about Sean.
Ms. Heard, I won't warn you again about your tone. Ms. Agnifilo, proceed with your questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Heard, you mentioned freak-offs earlier. You admitted you never witnessed one yourself, only heard rumors. Yet in your statement to investigators, you claim to have seen disturbing behavior at one of these events. Which is it?
I saw things that made me uncomfortable. Women who looked scared, men who were too aggressive. I didn't see the acts themselves, but the atmosphere was wrong.
So you're basing your testimony on feelings, not facts. And isn't it true you attended these parties willingly, seeking to advance your own career? You said yourself Mr. Combs offered to open doors for you. Did you ever take him up on those offers?
No, I didn't want anything from him. I went to those events because I was invited, because it's part of the industry. You don't say no to someone like Sean Combs.
So you're admitting you were there for your own gain, yet you're painting my client as a villain. Miss Heard, isn't it possible your testimony is colored by your own agenda to rehabilitate your public image after your own legal battles?
That's not fair. I'm here because I want justice. I saw what Sean did to people, how he controlled them. I'm not lying
Miss
about
Heard,
that.
let's focus on another specific incident. You mentioned in your statement a conversation with Justin Combs in 2020 where he made serious allegations against his father. Can you describe that?
Yes, it was at a music festival in Miami. Justin was there and we ended up talking alone for a few minutes. He was emotional, almost desperate. He told me his father had forced him to participate in illegal activities to protect the family name. He said Sean made him arrange payments to people to keep them quiet, about the parties, about what happened at them. Justin said he felt trapped, like he couldn't escape his father's control.
Did Justin specify what these payments were for?
He said they were to cover up things that happened at the freak-offs. He didn't go into detail, but he mentioned a woman who threatened to go public about being coerced into acts. Justin said he had to deliver cash to her under Sean's orders.
Objection, Your Honor. This is hearsay, and the witness is again relying on vague, second-hand information.
Sustained. Ms. Heard, you cannot testify about what Justin Combs allegedly told you unless it directly pertains to your own observations or actions.
But it's true, Justin was terrified of his father. He said Sean had secrets, big ones, and he'd do anything to keep them hidden. I'm not making this up.
Ms. Heard, you've been warned about hearsay. Stick to what you personally witnessed.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with a document to refresh her recollection? Miss Heard, this is an email you sent to a friend in 2020 describing an encounter with Mr. Combs at a film premiere. Can you read the highlighted portion?
Sean was at the premiere last night, acting like he owns the place. He cornered me, said I should be grateful for the exposure. I told him to back off, but he just laughed. There's something off about him, like he's hiding a million secrets.
Does this email align with your testimony today?
Yes, it's exactly what I've been saying. Sean was always pushing boundaries, making people feel small so he could feel powerful.
Miss Heard, this email also mentions you were networking at the premiere. Isn't it true you were seeking Mr. Combs' help to secure a role in a music biopic? And when he didn't deliver, you became resentful.
That's not true. I wasn't after a role. I was just trying to survive in this industry. Sean was the one who made it feel like a transaction.
So you admit you were pursuing opportunities at these events, yet you claim to be a victim of Mr. Combs' behavior. Miss Heard, isn't it possible your testimony is an attempt to shift blame from your own questionable decisions?
I'm not perfect, okay? I've made mistakes, but I'm not lying about Sean. He's dangerous and people need to know.
We'll take a 15-minute recess. Ms. Heard, you're excused for now but remain under oath. Order in the court. We are here today in the matter of United States v. Sean Combs. Mr. Carter, you have been sworn in. Please state your full name for the record.
Sean Corey Carter.
Thank you. Ms. Mitchell, you may proceed with your questioning.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carter, can you please describe your relationship with the defendant, Mr. Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy?
Sean and I go way back. We came up in the music industry around the same time, mid-90s. Both of us were young, hungry, trying to make a name for ourselves. We collaborated, partied, did business deals. We were friends, competitors, and sometimes partners. But over time, I saw things that made me question who he really was.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by things? What did you observe about Mr. Combs' behavior or business practices that caused concern?
Sean's always been about flash, about power. That's his brand, bad boy, the parties, the lifestyle. But behind the scenes, I saw a pattern. He'd leverage his influence to control people, artists, employees, even friends. It wasn't just ambition, it was manipulation. I heard stories, saw things that didn't sit right. People getting strong-armed into deals, threats if they didn't comply, and worse.
Objection, Your Honor, this is vague and speculative. The witness is offering hearsay and opinion, not facts.
Your Honor, Mr. Carter is providing context for his relationship with the defendant and his first-hand observations, which are relevant to the charges.
Overruled. Mr. Carter, please stick to specific incidents you personally witnessed or were directly involved in. Proceed, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carter, can you provide a specific example of an incident that raised concerns about Mr. Combs' conduct?
Yeah, back in '99, we were at a club in Manhattan, some big industry event. Sean was hosting as usual. I saw him corner this young artist, a kid who just signed to Bad Boy. The kid looked scared, like he was being pressured. Later, I heard from mutual associates that Sean had threatened to shelve his album if he didn't agree to a predatory contract. That kid never dropped a record. His career was over before it started.
And did you ever confront Mr. Combs about this incident?
Not directly. I didn't have all the details then, just what I saw and what people were whispering. But I started keeping my distance. I didn't want my name tied to that kind of energy.
Objection, Your Honor, this is hearsay again. Mr. Carter is testifying about rumors, not facts he can substantiate.
Your Honor, Mr. Carter is testifying to what he personally observed and the impact it had on his relationship with the defendant, which is relevant to establishing a pattern of behavior.
Sustained in part. Mr. Carter, refrain from repeating what others told you unless you can verify it with first-hand knowledge. You may continue, Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. Carter, let's move to a more specific allegation. The government has evidence suggesting Mr. Combs engaged in coercive and exploitative practices within his business empire. Can you speak to any instances where you witnessed or were aware of such behavior?
Look, I'm a businessman. I built Rockefeller, Rock Nation from the ground up. I know how this industry works. Deals get tough, negotiations get heated. But what Sean was doing wasn't just business, it was personal. In 2003, I was at a studio session in LA. Sean was there with a female artist, someone new to his label. She was talented, had a big future. But I saw how he talked to her, demeaning, controlling, like she owed him everything. Later, I found out she'd been pressured into personal situations with him, things she didn't want. She left the industry not long after.
Can you clarify what you mean by personal situation?
I don't want to speculate on details I didn't see myself. But I heard from people close to her, credible people, that she was coerced into things that went beyond professional boundaries. Things that made her uncomfortable, scared even. It wasn't just about music, it was about power.
Objection, Your Honor, this is outrageous. Mr. Carter is slandering my client with vague, inflammatory accusations. He's admitted he has no first-hand knowledge of these so-called personal situations.
Your Honor, Mr. Carter is testifying to his observations and the context of Mr. Combs' behavior, which corroborates other evidence the government will present. His testimony is relevant to the defendant's pattern of conduct.
Overruled, but Mr. Carter, you must limit your testimony to what you personally witnessed or know to be true. The court will not tolerate speculation. Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carter, let's focus on a specific incident tied to the charges of racketeering and coercion. In 2010, you and Mr. Combs were both involved in a joint venture for a music festival. Can you describe what happened during that project?
Yeah, the Urban Beats Festival. It was supposed to be a big deal, multi-city tour, big names, huge promotion. I came in as a partner through Rock Nation. Sean was running point through Bad Boy Entertainment. At first, it was smooth, contracts signed, artists booked. But then I started hearing from vendors, small businesses we'd hired for production, that they weren't getting paid on time. One guy, a lighting tech, told me Sean's people were shaking him down for extra fees to release his payments. When I brought it up to Sean, he laughed it off, said it was just business. But I dug deeper. Turns out he was skimming funds from the budget, funneling money through shell companies. I pulled Rock Nation out of the deal when I realized what was going on.
And did you report these findings to anyone?
I didn't go to the feds, if that's what you mean. I handled it my way, cut ties, protected my brand, but I warned people in the industry to watch their backs with him. Word spreads fast.
Your Honor, Mr. Carter's testimony is based on his direct involvement in the project and his observations of irregularities, which align with the government's evidence of racketeering.
Overruled. The government may present evidence to corroborate Mr. Carter's testimony later. Continue, Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. Carter, the government has also alleged that Mr. Combs used his influence to intimidate and silence individuals who threatened to expose his misconduct. Did you ever experience or witness such behavior?
Objection, Your Honor. This is another attempt to smear my client with unproven allegations. Mr. Carter has no evidence of these supposed shell companies or financial misconduct. Yeah. In 2015, I was working on a deal to acquire a streaming platform. Sean wanted in, but I wasn't interested in partnering with him. He didn't take it well. A week later, I got a call from one of my executives, someone I trust. They said Sean's people were spreading rumors, trying to tank the deal by saying I was mismanaging funds. It was a lie, straight-up sabotage. I confronted him and he denied it, but I knew his playbook. He'd done it to others, plant stories, threaten lawsuits, anything to keep people in line.
And how did you respond to this attempt to undermine your deal?
I doubled down, got my lawyers involved, locked in the acquisition. But it cost me time, money, stress. That's how Sean operates. If he can't control you, he tries to destroy you.
Objection, Your Honor. This is character assassination, not testimony. Mr. Carter is painting my client as a cartoon villain without a shred of evidence.
Sustained. Mr. Carter, please focus on specific actions you witnessed or were directly involved in, not generalizations about the defendant's character. Ms. Mitchell, move on.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Carter, one final area. The government has evidence of a 2018 incident at Mr. Combs' annual white party in the Hamptons, where he allegedly coerced individuals into compromising situations. Were you present at this event, and what did you observe?
I was there. It was a big event, hundreds of people, celebrities, influencers, industry folks. Sean's parties were always over the top, but that one something felt off. I saw him with a group of young women, some barely out of their teens. He was pushing drinks on them, getting too close, too aggressive. One of them looked uncomfortable, like she wanted to leave but couldn't. I didn't stay long, left early because it didn't feel right. Later, I heard from someone who was there that things got worse after I left. People were pressured, manipulated. I can't say exactly what happened, but I know what I saw set off alarms.
And did you take any actions based on what you observed?
I stopped going to his events after that. I told my team to steer clear of anything tied to Sean. I didn't want my name, my brand, anywhere near that.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Agnifilo, your cross-examination.
Mr. Carter, you've painted a very dramatic picture of my client. Let's get to the facts. You said you saw Mr. Combs corner an artist in 1999. Can you name this artist?
I don't remember his name. It was over 20 years ago, but I remember his face, his fear. That stuck with me.
So you can't identify the person and you have no evidence to corroborate this alleged incident. Is that correct?
I know what I saw. I don't have a name, but I'm not making it up.
Moving on. You mentioned a female artist in 2003. Again, no name, no specifics, just vague accusations. Are you aware that my client has worked with dozens of artists, many of whom have spoken positively about their experiences?
I'm not here to speak for everyone. I'm telling you what I saw, what I heard from people I trust.
People you trust but no evidence. Let's talk about the Urban Beats Festival. You claim my client was skimming funds and using shell companies. Do you have any financial records, emails, or documents to back this up?
I saw the vendor contracts, the payment delays. My team flagged irregularities in the budget. I didn't keep a paper trail. I wasn't running an audit. I got out when I saw the red flags.
So no evidence, just your word. And regarding this 2018 white party, you admit you left early and didn't witness anything beyond uncomfortable behavior. Yet you're implying serious misconduct based on what gossip?
I'm not implying anything. I'm telling you what I saw. The vibe was wrong. People were scared. You don't need a law degree to know something's off.
Mr. Carter, isn't it true that you and my client have been rivals for decades? That your testimony might be influenced by personal or professional jealousy?
I don't need to tear Sean down to build myself up. I'm here because I was subpoenaed because I saw things that matter. This ain't about jealousy. It's about right and wrong.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Agnifilo. Mr. Carter, you're excused. Banging gavel will take a 15-minute recess. Order in the court. We will now proceed with the testimony of Ms. Kylie Jenner in the case of United States v. Sean Combs. Ms. Stein, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Turning to Kylie, her tone measured but firm, Miss Jenner, please state your full name for the record.
Kylie Kristen Jenner.
Miss Jenner, you're here today to provide testimony regarding your interactions with the defendant, Mr. Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy. Can you confirm that you've had a professional and personal relationship with the defendant over the past several years?
Yes, that's correct. I've known Sean, Mr. Combs, for about 6 years. We've crossed paths at events, collaborated on some business ideas, and there were personal interactions too.
Let's start with the professional side. Can you describe the nature of your business dealings with Mr. Combs?
It started in 2019. I was expanding Kylie Cosmetics, looking into new markets like music collabs for brand campaigns. Sean reached out through a mutual contact, saying he wanted to partner on a project, a limited edition lip kit tied to one of his music festivals. He said it could be a cultural moment, blending beauty and hip-hop. I was intrigued. We met a few times to discuss logistics, marketing, all that.
And did these meetings remain strictly professional?
At first, yes, but things changed. Pauses, her voice dropping, Sean started inviting me to private events, after parties, stuff like that. It wasn't just about business anymore.
Objection, Your Honor. This is vague and irrelevant to the charges. Ms. Jenner's social engagements with my client don't constitute evidence of any wrongdoing.
Your Honor, Miss Jenner's testimony establishes a pattern of behavior by the defendant that is directly relevant to the allegations of coercion, manipulation, and abuse of power outlined in the indictment.
Overruled. Ms. Jenner, please continue. Be specific but stick to the facts.
Okay. The first time things felt off was at one of his parties in Miami, summer of 2020. It was at his Star Island mansion. I was there to discuss the campaign, but it turned into this wild scene. People were everywhere, music blasting, and Sean was different. He was charming, sure, but intense. He kept offering me drinks, saying I needed to loosen up to understand his vision. I didn't drink much, I don't usually, but he was insistent. It felt like he was testing me.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by testing you?
Like he'd push boundaries. He'd say things like, "You're not just a pretty face, Kylie. You want to play in my world, you gotta keep up." It wasn't just about the lip kit anymore. He started talking about loyalty and how I needed to prove I was down for him. I thought it was just his personality, big, bold, whatever, but then it got personal.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay and speculation. Ms. Jenner's interpretation of my client's words isn't evidence.
Your Honor, this goes to the defendant's intent and pattern of behavior, which is central to the charges of coercion and exploitation.
Overruled, but Ms. Jenner, focus on specific actions and statements, not your assumptions about intent.
Okay, at that party, he pulled me aside to a private room. He said he wanted to show me some exclusive footage for the campaign. But there was no footage, it was just us, and he started coming on to me. He said he could make me bigger than I ever dreamed, but I had to be all in. I told him I wasn't comfortable, that I was there for business. He laughed it off, but his vibe changed. He got cold, said I was being immature.
Miss Jenner, thank you for sharing that. Can you clarify what you mean by coming on to you? We need specifics for the record.
He was standing close, too close. He put his hand on my waist, told me I was special and that he could open doors for me, but only if I showed him I was serious. He implied physical stuff, like being with him. I said no and he backed off, but he made it clear he wasn't happy about it.
And how did this affect your professional relationship with Mr. Combs?
It was never the same. He kept pushing for meetings, but they were always at his places, his studio, his house, never an office. I started bringing my team to every meeting, but he'd find ways to get me alone. He'd text me late at night saying things like, "You know I'm the only one who gets you." It felt controlling. Like he wanted me to owe him something.
Objection, Your Honor. These are unsubstantiated claims. Where's the evidence of these texts? My client is a public figure with a busy schedule. Late-night texts are hardly criminal.
Your Honor, we have submitted phone records as Exhibit C, which corroborate Miss Jenner's account of late-night communications from the defendant. Her testimony provides context for their content.
Overruled. The phone records are in evidence, Mr. Agnifilo. Miss Jenner, continue.
It wasn't just texts. In 2021, he invited me to a creative retreat in the Bahamas. He said it was for brainstorming, but when I got there, it was just a private villa, him and a few of his people. No team, no cameras, nothing professional. That's when things got worse.
Can you describe what happened at this retreat?
I shouldn't have gone, but I was young and he was this huge name. I thought I needed him to take my brand to the next level. At the villa, he kept pushing for us to be alone. One night, he got me really drunk, more than I'd ever been. I don't even remember how it happened, but I woke up in his room. I know something happened. I felt it. I was violated. I didn't consent to anything.
Objection, Your Honor. This is an outrageous accusation with no corroboration. Miss Jenner is making inflammatory claims without evidence, and this is prejudicial to my client.
Your Honor, Miss Jenner's testimony is direct evidence of the defendant's alleged pattern of sexual coercion and abuse, as charged. We have medical records from Miss Jenner's visit to a clinic 2 days after the retreat, which we've submitted as Exhibit D.
Mr. Agnifilo, you'll have your chance to cross-examine. Overruled. Miss Jenner, please continue, but be mindful of sticking to what you directly experienced.
I didn't know what to do. I was scared, ashamed. I didn't tell anyone at first because he's P. Diddy, who would believe me, but I went to a doctor when I got back to LA. I was in pain and I was terrified I'd caught something. The doctor confirmed I had bruising and signs of trauma. I didn't press charges then because I was afraid of what he'd do to my career, my family. He has so much power.
Miss Jenner, thank you for your courage in sharing this. Can you tell us how this incident affected your interactions with Mr. Combs afterward?
I tried to cut him off, but he wouldn't let me. He kept calling, texting, showing up at events I was at. He'd act like nothing happened, but there was always this threat behind it. Like, "You owe me, Kylie. Don't forget who made you." He never said it outright, but it was clear he expected me to stay quiet, to keep working with him. He even tried to get me to sign a new deal for a clothing line, saying it would fix everything. I said no, and he got angry. He said I'd regret crossing him.
Did you ever confront Mr. Combs about what happened in the Bahamas?
Not directly, I was too scared, but I told him I didn't want to work together anymore and he laughed. He said, "You'll come back when you're ready to play ball." That's when I started documenting everything: texts, emails, voicemails. I knew I needed proof if I was ever going to stand up to him.
Miss Jenner, one final question. Why did you decide to come forward now?
Because I'm not a kid anymore. I have a daughter, a business, a life I've built. I can't let him keep doing this to people. He thinks he's untouchable, but he's not. I'm here for me, for my truth, and for anyone else he's hurt.
Thank you, Miss Jenner. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Agnifilo, your cross-examination.
Your Honor, I move to strike that last statement. It's speculative and references unproven allegations. Miss Jenner, let's be clear, you're a successful businesswoman, correct? Forbes once called you the youngest self-made billionaire, didn't they?
Yes, I've built a successful business, but I don't see what that has to do with this.
It has everything to do with it, Miss Jenner. You're not exactly a naive ingenue, are you? You've navigated Hollywood, built an empire, and yet you claim my client, a man you willingly associated with for years, coerced you into anything.
Success doesn't mean I can't be manipulated or hurt. Sean used his influence to make me feel like I had to play by his rules. That's not consent, it's power.
Let's talk about this Bahamas trip. You admit you chose to attend, correct? You flew there on your own private jet, stayed in a luxury villa, and drank alcohol willingly?
I went for a business meeting. I didn't sign up for what happened. And yes, I drank, but I didn't consent to being drugged or assaulted.
Drugged? That's a new claim, Miss Jenner. You didn't mention that in your direct testimony. Where's the evidence you were drugged?
I don't have a toxicology report if that's what you mean, but I know how I felt. I've never blacked out like that before. I know my body.
So no evidence, just your feelings. And these texts you claim were threatening. Can you read one for the court that explicitly threatens you?
Here's one from April 2021. Kai, don't play games. You know I can make or break you. Let's talk. That's not a friendly text, Mr. Agnifilo.
Or it's a music mogul being dramatic. Miss Jenner, isn't it true you continued to attend events where my client was present, even after this alleged incident? Doesn't that suggest you weren't afraid of him?
I was terrified, but I had to keep working. I couldn't let him ruin my career. I brought security, stayed distant, but yeah, I showed up. That doesn't mean I wasn't scared.
Or maybe, Miss Jenner, you're here because you regret a consensual affair and want to rewrite history. Isn't that possible?
Objection, Your Honor. That's argumentative and assumes facts not in evidence.
Sustained. Mr. Agnifilo, rephrase or move on.
Miss Jenner, isn't it true you and my client had a consensual relationship, and now you're framing it as something sinister to bolster this case?
No, I never wanted a relationship with him. He preyed on me, used his power to manipulate me. I'm not here to rewrite anything. I'm here to tell the truth.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Miss Jenner, you're excused. To the attorneys, we'll recess for lunch and reconvene at 1:30 p.m. Order in the court. We will now proceed with the testimony of Mr. LeBron James. Counselor, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. James, please state your full name and occupation for the record.
LeBron Raymond James. I'm a professional basketball player, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. I own multiple businesses, including Spring Hill Company, and I'm a partner in several investment ventures.
Thank you, Mr. James. Can you confirm your relationship, if any, with the defendant, Mr. Sean Combs?
Sean and I have crossed paths in the entertainment and business world for years. We've attended events together, collaborated on a few promotional projects through his music and my media ventures. But I wouldn't call it a close personal relationship. It's been strictly professional, and even that's been complicated.
Complicated how, Mr. James?
I've always tried to keep my business clean, transparent. My brand is built on integrity on and off the court. But working with Sean, I started seeing things that didn't sit right. Things that made me question his business practices and, frankly, his character.
Objection, Your Honor. Vague and speculative. The witness is making broad statements without evidence.
Sustained. Mr. James, please be specific in your testimony. Stick to facts.
My apologies, Your Honor. Let me break it down. About 3 years ago, in 2022, I was approached by Sean's team for a potential partnership between my media company, Spring Hill, and his Revolt TV network. The pitch was a joint streaming platform for sports and music content. Big vision, big money. I was interested because it aligned with my goal of empowering creators and telling authentic stories.
And what happened with this proposed partnership?
We got deep into negotiations. Signed NDAs, shared financials, the works. My team did due diligence, and that's when red flags started popping up. Sean's financial records for Revolt were inconsistent. Numbers didn't add up, revenue streams that looked inflated, expenses that didn't make sense. My CFO flagged it, and we started asking questions.
Can you elaborate on these inconsistencies?
Sure. There were large cash transactions listed as consulting fees to shell companies with no clear purpose. One of them I remember was called Deluxe Ventures. We couldn't find any record of it online, no website, no employees, just a PO box in Delaware. Another was a series of payments to individuals who, when we dug deeper, had no verifiable connection to Revolt's operations. It looked like money was being funneled somewhere, but we couldn't trace where.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is not a financial expert. This is hearsay based on his team's findings, not his direct knowledge.
Your Honor, Mr. James is testifying to his direct involvement in the negotiations and the concerns raised by his team, which he personally reviewed as the head of Spring Hill.
Overruled. Mr. James, continue, but focus on what you personally observed or acted upon.
Understood, Your Honor. I personally reviewed the documents. I sat in meetings where Sean brushed off our questions. He'd say things like, "That's just how the music business works," or "You don't need to worry about the details, Braun." But I'm not the type to sign off on something I don't understand. When I pressed him for clarity, he got defensive, said I was overstepping by questioning his books.
And how did you respond to that?
I told him I wasn't comfortable moving forward unless we got full transparency. My team recommended an independent audit, and I backed them up. That's when things got heated. Sean pulled out of the deal, accused me of not trusting him, said I was acting like I'm above him. I didn't care about the ego trip. I cared about protecting my company and my reputation.
Did this interaction lead to any further discoveries about Mr. Combs' business practices?
Yeah, after the deal fell apart, someone from Sean's inner circle, a former employee who I won't name for their safety, reached out to me privately. They were scared, said they'd seen things at Bad Boy Entertainment and Revolt that went beyond bad accounting. They mentioned coercion, threats, people being pressured to stay quiet about off-the-books dealings.
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor. This is an anonymous source with no corroboration.
Your Honor, this testimony establishes Mr. James' state of mind and the reasons he took further action, which we will substantiate with additional evidence.
I'll allow it for now, but Mr. James, refrain from repeating unverified claims unless you can tie them to your direct actions or observations.
Yes, Your Honor. That conversation spooked me enough to dig deeper. I hired a private firm to look into Sean's businesses, not out of spite but to protect myself. If my name was tied to him in any way, I needed to know what I was dealing with. The firm found evidence of what they called potential money laundering patterns. Large sums moving through offshore accounts, tied to entities with no clear business purpose. They also flagged a pattern of NDAs, dozens of them, signed by former employees, contractors, even artists, all with clauses that seemed designed to silence them.
Can you clarify what you mean by silence them?
The NDAs weren't just about protecting trade secrets. They had clauses that barred people from talking about anything they saw or heard while working for Sean, period. One of my advisors, who's seen a lot of contracts, said it was unusual, like they were trying to cover up more than just business strategies. Combined with the financial red flags, it felt wrong.
Your Honor, this is speculative at best. Mr. James is not a lawyer or an investigator. He's painting a narrative without evidence.
Mr. Agnifilo, you'll have your chance to cross-examine. For now, let the witness finish. Proceed, Mr. James.
Thank you, Your Honor. Look, I'm not here to play detective. I'm here because what I saw and heard made me believe Sean was involved in something shady, something that could have dragged my name through the mud if I hadn't walked away. But it wasn't just about money. There were stories, credible ones, about how Sean treated people, artists, employees, even business partners like me. Intimidation, threats. I heard from one artist who said Sean threatened to ruin their career if they didn't sign over rights to their music. This wasn't just business. It felt personal, predatory.
Mr. James, let's focus on a specific incident. Can you tell us about an event in 2023 involving Mr. Combs that you witnessed directly?
Yeah. It was at a charity gala in Miami, spring of 23. Sean and I were both there raising money for youth programs. I was there with my foundation, the LeBron James Family Foundation, and he was representing his own nonprofit. Everything was fine until later that night. I saw Sean corner one of his former artists, a young guy, talented, maybe 22 years old, in a private room off the main hall. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I was nearby and the door was cracked.
What did you overhear?
Sean was yelling, telling the kid he'd never work again if he didn't play ball. Said he'd make sure every label in the industry blackballed him. The kid was shaken, almost in tears. I didn't know the full context, but it wasn't just a contract dispute. It felt like Sean was using his power to scare this kid into submission. I stepped in, told Sean to back off. He laughed it off, said it was just business, but the look in his eyes, it wasn't friendly.
And how did this incident affect your view of Mr. Combs?
It confirmed what I'd been hearing. Sean's not just a businessman, he's someone who uses fear to get what he wants. I've been in tough negotiations, I've dealt with egos, but this was different. It was cruel. And it wasn't an isolated thing. I started hearing similar stories from others in the industry, producers, dancers, even executives. People were afraid to cross him.
Mr. James, you've made serious allegations about Mr. Combs' financial practices and behavior. Did you take any actions based on these concerns?
I did. I cut all professional ties with him. I told my team to steer clear of any projects involving his companies. And when I was approached by investigators about a year ago, I shared what I knew. I didn't want to be here testifying, but I've got a responsibility. Not just to my business, but to the people who look up to me. If Sean's been breaking the law, hurting people, I can't stay silent.
Thank you, Mr. James. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Agnifilo, your cross-examination.
Mr. James, let's be clear. You're a basketball player, not a forensic accountant or a law enforcement officer, correct?
I'm a businessman who's built a multi-million-dollar empire from the ground up. I know how to read a balance sheet, and I know when something's off.
But you relied on your team's analysis, not your own expertise, to flag these so-called inconsistencies in my client's financials, didn't you?
My team did the groundwork, but I reviewed it myself. I don't sign off on anything I don't understand.
And this anonymous source you mentioned, this former employee who was supposedly scared, you can't name them, can you? Because they don't exist or because you're protecting a convenient fiction?
They exist. I'm not naming them because they're afraid of what Sean might do. I've seen how he operates.
So we're supposed to take your word for it. A man who's admitted to having a professional rivalry with my client, you wanted his platform, his influence, and when the deal fell through, you decided to smear him. Isn't that the real story?
I don't need Sean's platform, I've got my own. I walked away because I didn't trust him, not because I wanted to smear him. If I'm here, it's because I was subpoenaed, not because I've got a vendetta.
And this alleged incident at the gala, conveniently, no one else saw it, did they? Just you, overhearing a private conversation with no witnesses to corroborate your story.
The kid he was threatening saw it. I'm sure he'd tell you himself if he wasn't terrified of Sean.
Your Honor, I move to strike Mr. James' testimony as speculative and uncorroborated. He's weaving a narrative to damage my client's reputation.
Your Honor, Mr. James has provided specific, detailed accounts based on his direct involvement and observations. The defense can challenge the weight of his testimony, but it's admissible.
I'll allow the testimony to stand, but the jury will decide its credibility. Mr. Agnifilo, do you have further questions?
Not at this time, Your Honor, but I reserve the right to recall the witness.
Very well, Mr. James, you may step down. Court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. We are now in session. This is the case of United States v. Sean Combs, also known as Puff Daddy, Diddy, and other monikers. The court will hear testimony from Jennifer Lopez today. Ms. Lopez, please approach the stand and be sworn in.
I solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
You may be seated. You will now answer questions from the Assistant U.S. Attorney first, followed by cross-examination by Mr. Combs' counsel.
Good morning, Ms. Lopez. Thank you for being here today. For the record, could you please state your full name
Jennifer Lynn Lopez.
and your profession?
I'm a singer, actress, dancer, producer, and fashion designer.
Ms. Lopez, how long have you known the defendant, Sean Combs?
I've known him since the early 2000s. We met through mutual industry connections. He was already a well-known figure in music and entertainment at that time.
Could you describe the nature of your relationship with Mr. Combs?
It was professional initially. There were collaborations and appearances on each other's projects. Over time, our interactions became more personal. We dated briefly around 2007-2008, though it wasn't publicized much.
Were there any incidents during that time that made you uncomfortable?
Yes, there were several occasions where I felt pressured into situations I wasn't comfortable with. One instance stands out vividly.
Can you elaborate?
There was a party hosted by Mr. Combs at his home in Miami in 2008. I had agreed to attend because we were still friendly and I thought it would be a fun event. However, when I arrived, the atmosphere was different than expected. There was excessive alcohol consumption, drug use, and what I can only describe as an environment of coercion and control.
What do you mean by coercion and control?
Mr. Combs was very dominant over everyone in the room. People looked to him for approval. If he didn't like something someone said or did, they were quickly dismissed or humiliated. It wasn't just verbal, it was physical too. He touched people without consent. He forced drinks into people's hands even when they declined. And if anyone tried to leave, security was instructed to stop them.
Did this happen to you personally?
Yes, I remember trying to leave after about an hour. I told him I wasn't feeling well and wanted to go back to my hotel. He got angry. He grabbed my arm hard and pulled me aside. He whispered something to me. I don't remember the exact words, but the tone was threatening. He told me I owed him for helping my career and that I couldn't just walk away.
How did you respond?
I was scared. I didn't want to make a scene, so I stayed longer than I wanted to, but I never drank again that night. I watched him closely. When I finally got a chance, I left with my assistant.
Was that the only incident?
No, there were other times where I felt uneasy around him. In 2010, I was invited to one of his label parties in Los Angeles. I went reluctantly. Again, there was pressure to drink, pressure to stay late, pressure to participate in activities I wasn't comfortable with. That night I saw someone, a young woman who was clearly under the influence and unable to consent. She was surrounded by men, including Mr. Combs, who were pressuring her into a private room.
Did you report this?
At the time, no, I was afraid. I didn't know who to trust. And honestly, I didn't think anything would come of it. Back then, people didn't speak out the way they do now. Plus, he had power over media, over labels, over careers. Speaking up meant risking everything.
Why are you speaking out now?
Because silence has allowed him to continue. Because I see women coming forward now, brave women, and I feel a responsibility to support them. I owe it to myself, to those women, and to my daughters to say what I saw and what I experienced.
Good afternoon, Miss Lopez. I'm Mr. Agnifilo, attorney for Mr. Combs. First, let me thank you for being here. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you and Mr. Combs were romantically involved for a brief period, is that right?
Yes.
And during that time, you attended multiple social events together, parties, dinners, award shows.
Yes.
So you were aware of his lifestyle and his circle before agreeing to attend these events. Let's talk about the specific allegations you just made. You claim Mr. Combs physically grabbed your arm at a party in Miami. Is that documented anywhere?
No, because I didn't report it.
You didn't call the police?
No.
You didn't mention it to your manager?
No, not directly, I was embarrassed. I didn't want to be seen as weak or difficult.
So essentially, your entire account rests on your memory from over 15 years ago.
Yes. Absolutely not. I'm here because I believe in justice, and because I know what I experienced.
Isn't it also true that you turned down offers from Bad Boy Records after your breakup?
Yes, and I built a successful career without him.
So you walked away from opportunities?
Yes, and I built a successful career without him.
Isn't it also true that you're using this moment to settle old scores?
It's convenient that survivors are finally being believed. It's convenient that people are listening now, but I'm not here for convenience. I'm here for truth.
Thank you, Miss Lopez. No further questions.
Just a few follow-up questions, Your Honor. Miss Lopez, when you say you walked away from opportunities with Bad Boy Records, was that a financial decision?
No, it was a personal one. I wanted to distance myself from a toxic environment.
Did Mr. Combs ever try to contact you after your breakup?
He did. At first, it was friendly. Then it became increasingly aggressive. He called me names, accused me of betraying him, and even threatened to ruin my career if I continued distancing myself.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to enter these into evidence.
Agreed. They'll be entered conditionally pending verification.
Miss Lopez, you mentioned threats to your career. Can you explain what you meant?
Mr. Combs told me that if I didn't publicly support him, he would ensure I never worked in music again. He said he had enough power to bury me.
Did anything happen after that?
My next album dropped significantly in sales. My label began pulling support. Radio stations stopped playing my singles. It wasn't a coincidence.
Would you say that affected your income?
Absolutely, I lost millions. And I know I'm not the only artist who faced this kind of retaliation.
Thank you, Miss Lopez. Nothing further. Miss Winfrey, thank you for being here today. Can you please state your full name for the record?
My name is Opera Gail Winfrey.
Miss Winfrey, you're here to testify about your interactions with the defendant, Sean Combs, also known as Diddy. Can you describe the nature of your relationship with him over the years?
Well, Emily, may I call you Emily? I've known Sean for over 2 decades. Our paths crossed often in the entertainment world, galas, award shows, charity events. He was always charming, larger than life, someone who could light up a room. But over time, I saw a side of him that wasn't in the spotlight. A side that made me deeply uneasy.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by uneasy? What specific experiences led to that feeling?
It started subtly. Around 2005, Sean invited me to an exclusive event at his Miami estate. He said it was a celebration of his latest album, a gathering of industry giants. I went because, well, I thought it was professional, a chance to network. But when I arrived, the atmosphere was different. The energy was off. There were people there, young women mostly, who seemed nervous, almost out of place. I noticed bowls of pills on tables, like party favors. I didn't know what they were at first, but later I overheard someone mention ecstasy and something called ketamine. I saw Sean encouraging guests to take them, not explaining what they were. It felt wrong, coercive even.
Objection, Your Honor, this is speculative. Miss Winfrey is not a pharmacologist and cannot confirm the nature of any substances.
Thank you, Your Honor. I didn't touch those substances. I've built my life on being present on clarity. But I saw others take them, some hesitantly, after Sean's insistence. He had this way of making you feel like you couldn't say no. His presence was commanding, almost intimidating.
Miss Winfrey, can you describe a specific incident that stood out to you at one of these events?
Yes, and this is hard for me to say because I've spent my life uplifting others, trying to see the good. But I saw Sean bully people, staff, assistants, even guests. At one event, a young woman, maybe in her 20s, spilled a drink near him. It was an accident, but he berated her in front of everyone, calling her names, saying she'd never work in this town again. His voice was cold, calculated. I stepped in, tried to calm things down, but he turned on me too. He said, "Opera, you don't want to cross me, I know people." It wasn't just a threat, it was a reminder of his power.
Miss Winfrey, you mentioned feeling threatened. Did Mr. Combs ever cross physical boundaries with you?
Yes. This is difficult. It was in 2010 at a private dinner in New York. Sean invited me to discuss a potential collaboration for his network. I thought it was a business meeting. After dinner, he asked me to stay for a private conversation. We were in his penthouse, just the two of us. He started talking about loyalty, about how I could be part of his inner circle. Then he moved closer, too close. He touched my face, said I was special, that I needed to loosen up. I froze. His hand lingered, and for a moment I thought he might force himself on me. I told him to stop, that I wasn't interested. He backed off, but the way he looked at me, like I'd betrayed him, stayed with me.
Objection, Your Honor. This is inflammatory and lacks specificity. Miss Winfrey is implying misconduct without evidence.
I understand, Your Honor. I'm just sharing what I felt in that moment. It was real to me. I left that night shaken, questioning if I'd misread him, but deep down I knew I hadn't.
Thank you for sharing that, Miss Winfrey. Did you ever witness or hear about Mr. Combs engaging in what you describe as organized illegal activities?
I did. And this is where it gets complicated. In 2012, I was at a party in Las Vegas. Sean was hosting, and it was one of those events where everything felt staged, like a performance. I overheard him talking to a man. I later learned he was part of his security team, about handling someone who'd crossed him. The way he said it, it wasn't just talk. It felt like a plan, like something bigger was at play. I also saw him give instructions to his staff about moving money, large sums, in ways that didn't sound legitimate. I'm no expert, but it reminded me of things I've read about racketeering, organized, deliberate.
That's significant. Did you take any actions based on what you observed?
I did something I've never told anyone publicly. I recorded a conversation. It was in 2014 at a meeting in Chicago. Sean didn't know I was recording. I'd started carrying a small device after that 2010 incident, just in case. He was talking about his parties, how he made sure everyone played their part. He laughed about how he'd gotten people to do things they didn't want to, how he had leverage. I turned that recording over to the authorities last year when I heard about this case. I couldn't stay silent anymore.
Objection, Your Honor. This is a bombshell introduced without prior disclosure. The defense demands to review this alleged recording.
Yes, Your Honor. It was submitted as evidence last month, marked as Exhibit 47. The defense was notified.
I understand. I just want the jury to know I didn't come here lightly. I've wrestled with this for years. Sean's charm, his power, it's seductive. He makes you feel like you're part of something exclusive. But then you see the cost. I saw young women at those parties, some barely adults looking scared, like they didn't want to be there. I heard whispers of freak-offs, things I didn't fully understand but knew weren't right. I couldn't ignore it anymore.
Miss Winfrey, how did these experiences affect you personally?
They changed me. I've spent my life advocating for truth for survivors. But being around Sean, seeing what I saw, it made me question my own silence. I felt complicit for too long, attending those events, not speaking up sooner. I've carried that guilt. That's why I'm here, to speak for those who can't, to shine a light on what I saw.
Thank you, Miss Winfrey. No further questions at this time.
Miss Winfrey, I respect your accomplishments, but I need to clarify some points. You've painted a vivid picture, but let's talk specifics. You mentioned a 2005 event in Miami. Can you confirm the date, the guest list, and the exact substances you claim to have seen?
It was late 2005, around November, I believe. I don't have the guest list memorized. There were dozens of people, some I knew, like music executives, others I didn't. As for the substances, I saw bowls of pills. White, pink, some shaped like, well, I heard someone say they were ecstasy. I didn't test them, but I saw people taking them after Sean's encouragement.
So no concrete evidence of illegal drugs, just hearsay? And this alleged 2010 incident in New York, can you provide the exact date, location, and any witnesses who can corroborate your story?
It was early 2010, maybe February, at Sean's penthouse in Manhattan. I don't recall the exact address. It was one of his properties. No one else was in the room when he touched me, but his staff was nearby. I didn't tell anyone at the time because I was embarrassed, afraid of what he might do to my reputation.
Embarrassed? Or perhaps you're embellishing now to fit a narrative. You're a powerful woman, Miss Winfrey. Why not report this immediately?
Mr. Agnifilo, power doesn't make you immune to fear. Sean had connections, influence. I'd seen him ruin careers. I was protecting myself, my work, my team. But I'm here now, telling the truth, because silence isn't an option anymore.
Convenient, isn't it? A recording surfaces just in time for this trial. Did anyone else hear this alleged conversation?
No, it was just us in that room. But I know what I heard. He talked about controlling people, about his parties being a way to keep people in line. It wasn't just bravado, it was calculated.
Uov described Mr. Combs as intimidating, but isn't it possible you misinterpreted his actions? He's a businessman, a showman. Couldn't his behavior have been part of his persona, not a threat?
Mr. Agnifilo, I've interviewed thousands of people. I know the difference between a persona and a threat. Sean wasn't performing when he leaned into me, when he touched me, when he told me I'd regret crossing him. It was real and it was wrong.
One final question, Miss Winfrey. You've built a career on storytelling. How can this jury trust that you're not crafting a story now, perhaps to settle a personal score or gain attention?
I have nothing to gain here. My career is built on truth, on giving voice to the voiceless. I'm here because I saw things that haunt me, young women scared, a man using his power to control, to hurt. I'm not perfect, but I'm honest. I'm here for them, not for me.
Order, Mr. Pitt, you've been sworn in. Please answer the questions truthfully and to the best of your ability. Miss Ellison, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Pitt, can you state your full name for the record?
William Bradley Pitt.
Mr. Pitt, you're here today to testify about your knowledge of the defendant, Mr. Sean Combs, and his alleged activities. Can you describe how you first became aware of Mr. Combs' interactions with your daughter, Shiloh?
It started about 3 years ago when Shiloh was 16. She'd always been headstrong, wanted to carve her own path. She got involved in some music and dance projects, and somehow that led her to working with Combs' team. I didn't think much of it at first. She was excited, said it was a big opportunity. But then things started to change.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by things started to change?
Shiloh started coming home late, sometimes not at all. She was secretive, which wasn't like her. She'd always been open with me, even during the tough times with her mom and me. But now she was guarded. I'd ask her about her day and she'd just say, "It's fine, Dad," or "Don't worry." Then I started hearing things, rumors from people in the industry. About parties, about Combs.
What kind of rumors, Mr. Pitt?
People talked about these events Combs would throw, exclusive, invite only. They weren't just parties, they were something else. I heard stories about young girls, barely adults, being pressured to attend, drugs, alcohol, things that no kid should be around. I got worried, so I confronted Shiloh.
And what did Shiloh tell you?
She didn't want to talk about it at first, kept saying she could handle herself. But one night she broke down. She told me Combs had been encouraging her to come to these parties, said it was part of the business, part of making it in the industry. She said he'd make these comments like she owed him for the opportunities he was giving her. She felt trapped.
Trapped how, exactly?
She said Combs had this way of making you feel like you couldn't say no. He'd dangle these promises, record deals, connections, fame, but there was always a catch. She told me about one night at his mansion in the hills. She was there with other girls, some even younger than her. There were men, older men, powerful men. She said Combs was in control of everything, like he was orchestrating it. She didn't want to be there, but she felt like she had no choice. She said he'd single her out, call her special, say she had potential. But it wasn't just flattery. He'd get close, too close, touch her arm, her shoulder. She said one time he pulled her aside and told her she needed to play the game if she wanted to make it. She was scared, but she didn't know how to get out. She was 16, for God's sake.
Did you take any actions after learning this?
Damn right I did. I called Combs myself, told him to stay the hell away from my daughter. He laughed it off, said I was overreacting, that Shiloh was part of the family. That's when he got cocky, said he knows too many people and I'd be smart to back off. I took that as a threat. I pulled Shiloh out of anything tied to him or his label the next day.
Mr. Pitt, are you aware of any other individuals who had similar experiences with Mr. Combs?
I've heard things. Other parents, other girls, people in the industry who have worked with him. They don't talk openly. Combs has a lot of influence, a lot of reach. But the stories are consistent. Young women promised the world, then pressured into things they didn't sign up for. I've talked to a couple of fathers, guys like me, who just want to protect their kids. They're scared to come forward because of who he is.
Mr. Pitt, why did you decide to testify today?
Because no one else was going to. Combs has been getting away with this for years, using his power, his money to manipulate people. My daughter got out, but others didn't. I can't sit back and let him keep doing this. Someone has to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Pitt. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Agnifilo, your cross-examination.
Mr. Pitt, you're quite the storyteller. You've painted my client as some sort of villain, but let's get to the facts. You said Shiloh worked for Mr. Combs, correct?
She was involved with his team, yes.
And during that time, did you ever personally witness Mr. Combs force your daughter to attend any of these alleged parties?
No, I wasn't there, but Shiloh told me.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. Mr. Pitt is recounting a conversation he wasn't part of.
Sustained. Mr. Pitt, please stick to what you directly observed or experienced.
All right, I didn't see it myself, but I know what my daughter went through. She wasn't the same after those months with Combs people.
But you didn't see Mr. Combs, did you? You're relying on what Shiloh told you, which, as a father, you're understandably emotional about. Isn't it possible she exaggerated or misunderstood the situation?
My daughter doesn't lie to me. She was shaken up, scared. She's not some kid making things up for attention.
I'm not suggesting she's lying, Mr. Pitt. I'm suggesting she was a teenager, maybe overwhelmed by a fast-paced industry. You yourself said she was headstrong. Couldn't she have made choices you didn't approve of and blamed Mr. Combs?
She was 16. He's a grown man with a reputation for throwing his weight around. She didn't choose to be pressured. She was manipulated.
Let's talk about this threat you claim Mr. Combs made. You said he told you he knows too many people. Isn't that just industry talk? A figure of speech? You're a powerful man yourself, Mr. Pitt. Haven't you ever said something similar in a heated moment?
Not like that. It wasn't a figure of speech. It was a warning. I've been in this business long enough to know the difference.
Or maybe he was just warning you not to cross him in a competitive business environment. You're a producer, Mr. Pitt. You know how these things go. No actual threat was carried out, was it?
He didn't have to follow through. The message was clear: back off or there'd be consequences. I wasn't going to wait to find out what those were.
One final point. You're a public figure, Mr. Pitt, known for your high-profile relationships. Isn't it possible that your personal life, your disputes with Miss Jolie, might color how you view your daughter's choices? Maybe you're looking for someone to blame.
This isn't about me or Angelina. This is about my daughter and what Combs did to her. Don't try to twist this.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Miss Ellison, redirect.
Briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Pitt, when you confronted Mr. Combs, how would you describe his demeanor?
Arrogant, like he thought he was untouchable. He didn't deny anything about Shiloh or the parties, just brushed it off like it was no big deal.
And based on your conversation with Shiloh and others, do you believe Mr. Combs' behavior was isolated to your daughter?
No, I think it's a pattern. He's been doing this for years, using his influence to prey on young women with big dreams. Shiloh was just one of them.
Thank you, Mr. Pitt. No further questions.
The witness is excused. We'll take a 15-minute recess.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from Brad Pitt, a father who fought to protect his daughter from a man who abused his power. Sean Combs used his wealth, his influence, and his charisma to exploit vulnerable young women, including Shiloh Pitt. This isn't about Hollywood drama or personal grudges. It's about a pattern of predation, parties where girls were pressured, manipulated, and intimidated. Mr. Pitt's testimony, backed by others we've heard, shows a man who believed he was above the law. We ask you to hold him accountable.
The prosecution wants you to see my client as a monster, but what do we actually have? A father's emotional story based on second-hand information from a teenager. No direct evidence. No witnesses who saw Mr. Combs commit any crime. This is a witch hunt fueled by jealousy and Hollywood rivalries. Mr. Pitt's a talented man, but his story doesn't hold up. My client is a businessman, a mogul, not a criminal. You can't convict a man on rumors and feelings. The evidence just isn't there.
You've heard the arguments. You'll now retire to deliberate. Order in the court. We will now proceed with the testimony of Mr. Tyrese Halliburton. Miss Johnson, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Halliburton, please state your full name and occupation for the record.
Tyrese John Halliburton. I'm a professional basketball player for the Indiana Pacers in the NBA.
Thank you, Mr. Halliburton. Can you confirm how you came to know the defendant, Mr. Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy?
Yeah, I met him back in 2022 at one of his parties in Miami. It was during the offseason after my second year in the league. A mutual friend, someone in the music industry, invited me, said it was a big deal, a chance to network with some heavy hitters. I was young, just 22, trying to make a name for myself, so I went.
Can you describe the nature of these events you attended, hosted by Mr. Combs?
At first, they seemed like regular industry parties. You know, music, drinks, celebrities, athletes, models. High energy, lots of flash. But over time, I started noticing things that didn't sit right. The vibe would shift late at night. He called them after hours. That's when things got dark.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by dark? Be specific, Mr. Halliburton.
Look, I'm a kid from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I grew up playing ball in gyms with cracked floors. I wasn't ready for what I saw. These after-hours events, they weren't just parties. There were rooms, private rooms where people were being coerced. Women mostly. I saw things I can't unsee. Drugs being passed around like candy, people being pushed into situations they didn't want to be in, and Diddy, he was at the center of it all, calling the shots.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is making vague and inflammatory statements without providing specific evidence. This is prejudicial and lacks foundation.
Sustained. Mr. Halliburton, please provide specific details about what you observed and when. Avoid generalizations.
All right. Summer of 2022, Miami. I was at his mansion. It was late, maybe 2 a.m. I was about to leave when Diddy pulled me aside, said he wanted to talk business, maybe get me involved in some music ventures. I'm thinking, cool, this could be big for my brand, but then he takes me to this back room. There's a woman there, she looked young, maybe 19, 20. She was out of it, like not fully aware of what was going on. Diddy's got this guy with him, some big dude, looked like security. He tells her to get ready for something he called a freak off. I didn't know what that meant at first, but I could tell she wasn't okay with it. She kept looking at the floor, shaking. I heard Diddy say, "You know what happens if you don't." It wasn't a question, it was a threat.
And what did you do, Mr. Halliburton?
I froze. I'm not proud of it, but I was 22, in a room with a guy who's got more power than I could ever dream of. I didn't know what to do. I told him I had to go, made some excuse about an early flight. He just laughed, said, "You'll be back." I left, but I couldn't shake what I saw. That girl's face, it's burned into my head.
Did you attend any more of Mr. Combs' events after that?
Yeah, one more. January 2023, in LA, I didn't want to go, but my agent said it was a good look for my career. Said Diddy was interested in collaborating on some charity stuff, maybe a youth basketball program. I thought maybe I misread things in Miami. Maybe it wasn't what I thought, so I went. Big
What
mistake.
happened at this event in Los Angeles?
It was worse. This time it wasn't just one room, there were multiple rooms locked off with security at the doors. I saw people, men, women being led in, some of them looking scared, others high out of their minds. I heard Diddy talking to one of his guys about product and keeping the girls in line. He wasn't even trying to hide it. At one point he came up to me, offered me a drink and said, "You're either with us or against us, Tyrese." I knew what he meant. I got out of there as fast as I could.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay. The witness is testifying to alleged statements without corroboration, and his characterization of events is speculative.
Overruled. The statements are admissible as they pertain to the defendant's alleged conduct and the witness's perception of the events. However, Mr. Halliburton, please stick to what you directly observed or heard.
I heard him say it. I saw the fear in those people's eyes. I'm not making this up. I play ball for a living, man. I don't need to be here lying about this. I'm here because what I saw was wrong and I can't stay quiet about it.
Mr. Halliburton, you mentioned coercion and threats. Can you provide a specific instance where you witnessed Mr. Combs directly threatening someone?
Yeah. At that LA party, I saw him grab a woman by the arm hard. She was trying to leave, saying she didn't want to do it anymore. Diddy got in her face real close and said, "You leave and you're done, your family's done. You think you can walk away from me?" She started crying and he just laughed like it was nothing. His security guy pulled her into one of those rooms and I didn't see her again that night. I don't know what happened to her, but I know she was terrified.
Did you ever speak to Mr. Combs about what you witnessed?
Once. After the LA party, I called him. I was heated. I told him I didn't want to be part of whatever he was doing, that it wasn't right. He didn't even deny it. He just said, "You're young, Tyrese, you don't get how this works. Stay in your lane and you'll be fine." That's when I knew I couldn't just let it go. I started talking to people, trying to find out if others saw what I saw. That's how I ended up here.
Thank you, Mr. Halliburton. One final question. Why are you testifying today, knowing the potential risks to your career and public image?
Because I can't live with myself if I don't. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, but I grew up with a mom who taught me right from wrong. I've got a platform, a voice. If I don't use it to call out something this messed up, then what's the point? I don't care if it costs me endorsements or whatever. Those women, they didn't have a choice. I do.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Agnifilo, your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Halliburton, you're a professional athlete, correct? A rising star in the NBA, known for your, let's say, flair on the court. Would you say you're also seeking some of that flair in the courtroom today?
I'm not here for attention. I'm here to tell the truth. Like I said, my agent thought it was a good opportunity. I thought maybe I got it wrong the first time. I was young, trying to navigate a world I didn't fully understand. But when I saw it again, I knew it wasn't a mistake. It was real.
So you're saying you were naive? A 22-year-old NBA star invited to exclusive parties and you didn't know what to expect? Come on, Mr. Halliburton, you're a smart guy. You've got a reputation for being a playmaker, reading the court. Are we supposed to believe you couldn't read the room at these events?
I read the room just fine. That's why I'm here. I saw things that weren't right and I'm not gonna pretend I didn't. You can twist it however you want, but I know what I saw.
Let's talk about what you saw. You mentioned a woman in Miami, allegedly coerced. Did you speak to her? Get her name, report this to anyone at the time.
No, I didn't get her name. I was a guest at a party, not a cop. I didn't know who to tell, and honestly, I was scared. Diddy's got a lot of pull. You don't just go up against someone like that without thinking it through.
So you didn't report it, you didn't intervene, you just left. And yet, here you are 2 years later with a vivid memory of these events. Convenient, don't you think, given the publicity this case has generated?
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is badgering the witness and implying improper motives without evidence.
And sustained. Mr. Agnifilo, please focus on the witness's testimony, not speculation about his motives.
Very well. Mr. Halliburton, you mentioned a conversation with my client where he allegedly told you to stay in your lane. Did anyone else hear this conversation?
It was a phone call, just me and him. But I know what he said. He wasn't joking.
No witnesses, no recording, just your word against my client's. Let's move to the Los Angeles event. You claim you saw multiple rooms and heard my client use the term product. Can you confirm the exact date of this event?
It was early January 2023, right after New Year's. I don't have the exact date on me, but I can check my travel records if you need.
That won't be necessary. You also claim my client threatened a woman. Did you see any physical violence, or are you relying on what you think you heard?
I saw him grab her arm hard enough to make her wince. I heard him threaten her and her family. I didn't stick around to see what happened next because I didn't want to be part of it.
So again, you left. No report, no follow-up. And now you're here making serious allegations against a man who's been a titan in the music industry for decades. You're aware, Mr. Halliburton, that my client has denied all charges, correct?
Yeah, I'm aware. Doesn't change what I saw.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Miss Johnson, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Halliburton, you mentioned feeling scared to come forward at the time. Can you explain why?
Look, I'm not some street kid who grew up knowing how to handle situations like that. I'm a basketball player. My world is pick and rolls and three-pointers, not whatever Diddy was running. He's got connections everywhere. Music, sports, politics. You don't just call out someone like that without worrying about what might happen to you, your career, your family. I had to think about my mom, my little sister. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't stay silent. Not after what I saw.
And when you say you saw women being coerced, can you clarify what you mean by coercion?
It wasn't like they were signing up for this willingly. You could see it in their faces, fear, not choice. Diddy and his people made it clear there'd be consequences if they didn't go along with it. Threats, intimidation, drugs to make them compliant. That's not consent, that's control.
Thank you, Mr. Halliburton. No further questions.
The witness is excused. To Halliburton, you may step down, Mr. Halliburton.